Yeah.
It's more than warm.
Okay, my heart rate went down a little.
Are you a contractor?
I worked for
I wish there was like a
service. I was
counter
for
for walking
2 years
through
as their senior construction manager.
down.
Once it
Yes,
hits a
I'll be
certain
there.
number,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm out.
And worked for
That's
same
essentially
firm, doing the same thing for National Grid for another 5 years. And now I'm
Hello,
back
how
on the
are
market.
you?
Right.
I saw that big diesel pickup on there. You must be contractor.
Yeah, well, actually, so I was contracted, I worked for a line company, I don't know if you, IC Reed, yellow trucks with, which is a contract power line company. I worked for them when I first retired. That was a company truck I was given. and I had the opportunity to buy it cheap, and I did. Do I need a move?
That was easy.
You see, is this ours, yours?
Size track in the back.
I think you using this one?
No.
And a camper.
I'm gonna ask Colleen.
Assigned seats.
Trucks that goes to post twice.
Just trying to go around the world.
I can't, I'd like to do that, but
At least to Alaska.
obviously. Yeah, well, you know what I want to do? I wanna take
Where
a
else?
break. That's what I want to do.
You're welcome. It only took me 8 months to get you.
Do the Rockies, yes.
Where else?
Be it as good as I can.
Only place I've ever seen one like that,
Look at me,
where,
I was
where the
prepared.
departments do something like that.
It was funny, they laughed.
I'm going out there next week. I'll be riding through.
Do
Forget
you have a
everyone, I'll
paper
grab
one
it.
for me?
Awesome. I just went to Franklin.
Paper.
Where you
agenda,
going?
I got
I'll give you
24
a
miles
car.
a gallon on the highway.
I'm riding my bike out.
Yeah.
yeah. I can't focus these old eyes on that thing.
Get together. Jen.
This isn't much better, is it?
A 38-foot fifth.
Yeah, I asked, well, I got another question tonight, which I'll ask you. You'll probably get from there, right?
Even though diesel's getting kind of rip off.
And then,
I don't know how they get away with it.
Wow.
I asked
Wait, the fuel is less refined.
Behind the.
Amy from Parks and Rec, I said, I've been
Yeah, I
waiting for you
know
guys.
what
to
you're
call me,
talking
so they haven't been there yet.
Oh,
And I said, oh, maybe they got word.
yeah, they heard about, yeah, because I'm okay.
No.
Yeah.
If that. Yeah, there was a lot of like
Class C.
congestion around there.
It's amazing.
G class C.
Yeah, that's where I.
Where, for the geese?
Yeah.
Here, so-
You just told me to give you a call, so you
Does Tower Hill
go.
have anything
Oh,
new
no,
for
Yeah, no,
us?
yeah, no, let me know.
Oh, Tower Hill have anything new for us?
Class C.
So
I can set them off with a flare or a battery.
he just
I couldn't stay out of
wants
that.
I buy the red, my wife
Can't
has
do
a
that.
diesel,
for,
so I get the red diesel.
Oh, for food.
And that's why.
And you're, what are you, you're a nurse?
I just retired.
Oh, no way.
This is my first week of retirement.
Oh, inside music.
How's that going?
Oh, no, 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 no.
Right,
It's,
the liquor
I'm always
issue is
here,
still
but I'm
before
always
the
sitting over there.
Council's
Yeah,
purview,
we're
right?
sitting
It's
over there.
inside music.
My
He's
wife-
already
I always
covered
try to
it.
sit over there, but
All right.
that's not in the
Well,
camera.
Well, we know where the real money is.
Transition me, but I got a ton of hobbies that are so well. So I'm always doing something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you? Well, this is the first time we haven't had enough chairs for all the members of the
I know.
board.
I have a full house.
That's right, because Charlie's here in the flesh.
We have more board members than public.
But I've been here, just not in the flesh.
First time ever
Well, right there.
in the history of any planning board.
I'm very happy. we have
Well, are we
that,
all ready?
quite frankly.
Ready to go?
The situation you're in where you're out and about.
It's probably been recording for 10 minutes and
I'll be
has
here
caught
now,
every
next one
word
on
I've
this is
said.
August.
Thanks.
I'll be here, and the next one I'll probably be August.
Rob loves to do that. All right, everybody, good evening. My name is Peter Burnett. I'm the chair of the planning board. Welcome you to tonight's planning board meeting at 6:35. We'll call the meeting to order. The meeting is being held in person in the usual sense. The public can choose to attend and participate in person if they'd like using Zoom. To participate on Zoom, use the following link. It's basically zoom.us/join, and the webinar ID is 838-6125-6971. I can't see with or without my glasses. And to listen only, you can call 646-558-8656. or 301-715-8592. Using this option obviously only allows you to listen to the scintillating proceedings this evening. To view the meeting, YouTube does show it live. Go to the City of Laconia's YouTube page, which is located at youtube.com/Laconia NHL, one word. And we are still not simulcasting on channel 26. So with that said, may we please have a call to, roll call, please.
Joseph?
Louis, Joseph?
Yep.
Okay.
Kirk Biotti?
Here.
Brett Bellevue?
Here.
Bruce James?
Here.
Jonathan St. Clair?
Here,
Rich McNeil?
Here.
Mike Delvecchio?
Here.
Stacy Susie?
Here.
Sarah Jenna? Here. Scott McWilliams?
Here.
Peter Grant?
Present. So it looked like we have no use for
it's
for
nice.
alternate members for change. Not this particular evening, but trust me, we will. And thank you for signing up. We appreciate that. Staff in attendance tonight, Kalina Graham is running the administrative part of it. Rob Morris back there doing our internet interface, and I don't see him. Oh, there he is. Yes. Dean Trefethan, the planning director, is back there in the audience this evening. All right, so did you all have a chance to take a look at the minutes from the April 5th meeting? Are there any comments, additions, changes that you'd want to suggest? Hearing none, we'll declare the minutes accepted. We have presentation. Yes, we have presentation relative to revisions on the table of dimensional requirements. Is that correct? That could be why Dean was sitting back there.
So while the paper's coming around to you, the Master Plan Steering Committee has been meeting on a regular basis. One of the items that we have been discussing is our table of dimensional requirements. And we have discussed some specific changes that we will present to you tonight. We also have discussed a few other changes that have not come to a general agreement, and we're going to leave the heavy lifting of that to you, if you so choose, to accept the challenge. Table of dimensional requirements is part of the zoning ordinance. Two tables, is one for residential and one for non-residential. So if you could get the sheet of the side of the page that says residential uses on it, that would be the starting point for us tonight. I could not figure out on Excel how to do a strike through, so I added red for the actual changes. So under minimum land area, under the municipal water and sewer column, you can see that we are proposing to change the minimum lot size in the RS zone and the RG zone to those sizes. I will tell you that in the RG zone, that 6,000 square feet is probably about the average of what is currently in the RG zone. We have a lot of lots that are much smaller than that, and we of course have some lots that are larger than that, but a 60 by 100 foot lot was considered a ample size lot 100 years ago, when Pine Street, Bowdoin, Baldwin, Highland Street, Summer, et cetera, that whole area was developed 100 to 120 years ago. Under the next column, maximum residential density, we are proposing changing RG to 8 with an asterisk, and the RA to 12. The RA is the large apartment buildings, just to give you an example, on Blueberry Lane are RA. Actually, most of Blueberry Lane is RA. There are other areas in the city that are RA. Down on Apple Ridge, where they had some larger apartment buildings built about 6-7 years ago, that's in the RA zone. So it's that kind of an area, largely already developed, although not 100% developed. And I did do a calculation, for example, on the very large 30-unit buildings that are on Blueberry Lane and their lot size, and they exceed the 9 units per acre that we now allow. Apparently back then that was allowed. So we are proposing 12. The asterisk on the 8 for the RG is subject to availability of water, sewer, and stormwater. This is the older section of town. Water pipes in some cases are old. Sewer pipes in some cases are old. Storm drain in some places is old or non-existent. And so in order to have a higher density, we need to make sure that the infrastructure is already in the ground to handle it. The idea behind the increased density in this zone is that the infrastructure is already there. The streets are there, all the utilities are there, the traffic is already there, the sidewalks are there. This is the ideal place to increase the density because all those things are present. However, may not always be at the right level for future need. So we need to evaluate that before we go to the higher density. Moving across the chart, I'm going to skip over the yellow boxes for just a moment. Into the next column, minimum green space requirement. We, as part of Master Plan Steering Committee's efforts, we canvassed the area communities, Belmont, Guilford, Tilton, Meredith. We also canvassed other cities that are approximately our size, i.e. Somersworth, Keene, forget where else. And we also canvassed a couple of communities that are not necessarily the same size as Laconia, but similar to Laconia from the standpoint of tourist, lake, whatever that may be. So we looked at Sunapee and we looked at Conway, just to give you an indication of the, and what we found was, generally speaking, we require more green space than most of those towns. Even a town like Moultonborough or Center Harbor, their numbers are less than ours. One of the differences, particularly in the smaller communities like Moultonborough, Center Harbor, Sandmerton, et cetera, is they require, generally speaking, very large lots, 2-3 acre minimums. We don't. We do have some areas in town that are 2 acres. We are not proposing anything, any changes in the R1 or R2 area where we have the 2 acre zoning. But you know, you go to Sandmerton and you wanted to create a new lot in this day and age, it would have to be a minimum of 3 acres. To require a large amount of green space on a 3 acre lot is not a hardship to anybody, because you've got a lot of room to, you know, you can still put a very big house, you can still have a driveway, you can still have this, you can still have that, and you still have plenty of green space. Not the case when you're looking at 10,000 or less square foot lots, which is very common in Laconia. So we are proposing in the RS district, which is the residential single family, for a slight reduction. The SFR district, which already has a slightly higher number, we're proposing the same. In the RG district, we are proposing to go to 40. And I'll get back to the RG in just a second. The RA, we're going to 40. And in the CR zone, again, this is residential uses, to either go to 40 or 30. We were looking at, I had initially a proposed 40. We had discussed 30. There was, I can't say general consensus, but considerable agreement that 30 is a good number as well. Looking at the yellow boxes for just a moment, this is the infamous height discussion that we have been having now for a few months. And we have not come to any conclusion, consensus, or definitive number that I can put 5 people behind. And so I highlight them. I guess the comment would be the discussion continues. But this would be the opportunity for you to make a change in the table if you so desired. But since we can't get a consensus, and we've had several discussions about this, everybody knows, I think, everybody else's opinions on it, but maybe not. Any questions on the residential table? Okay.
I'm just, of course, about the height. Was there any talk about, I'll use Brett's adjective, carving out different areas as far as the height goes? So you could say in one residential area, it could be this height, whereas another residential area, it could be a different height.
You could do that, Charlie, and you absolutely could do that.
Okay.
And but the thing to keep, one of the things to keep in mind is the areas that I think some members have been concerned about are now covered by performance zoning. And in theory, someone could come in and present, propose 100 feet.
Unless we somehow can change that.
Yeah, but the nice thing about performance zoning is that actually gives the board more power than a cut and dry number in a table. This is not to say, as we have discussed at a couple of different occasions, that if the number is 60 and someone came in with a 60-foot structure proposed, that you could not deny it regular zoning. I'm not talking about performance zoning. You could deny it. You have to have a really good reason. It can't be, I think that's too high.
Right.
It's got to be a good reason. It's right next to church X, so therefore it'll dwarf that. That's too tall. It's right next to the most historic house in the city, so therefore 60 feet is too tall. Whatever the reason is, that's a good one. I'm not saying you're going to prevail in court, but you got a much better chance of prevailing in court.
But if the number is lower to begin with, then we don't have to worry about that.
You don't,
Okay, that's all I wanted to be clear.
unless you're in the areas of performance zoning, in which case,
Yeah.
you're in a different ballgame.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Stacy.
Did you pick 60 because that's the current number?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not proposing a change. That's the current number. That's the number that's been there for as far back as I can determine.
Okay.
It's not anything that's been changed in the past 40 years and probably longer. We've had that number.
Okay.
Is the option of staggering this, for example, just having one aspect go through and see how the public reacts instead of doing a complete change all across the board?
Yes, I mean, if
That's
you-
still
if
on
you
the
wanted to
table.
proceed with the changes to the table and just set aside the height issue for now and do that later, absolutely, absolutely. All right, moving on to the other flip side, which is non-residential, less changes. Again, the yellow boxes, exact same issue. Again, going in the RS and the SFR going to 40 and 50%. That should be 50% on the RS. That's my typo. And the RG 40 or 30. And then the RA to 40. There are no other changes on the non-residential. So this would be your commercial development. This would be industrial development. This would be retail, et cetera. We get into places like the Weirs, the 3 or 4 larger pieces of land that are available for development will probably not be a pure residential or a pure commercial. They will probably be a mixed use of some kind. What that will be, I don't know, but there'll be a mixture of some kind. All right. Any questions on the non-residential chart? So the process would be.
Sorry, for RG,
Yep.
40 and 30, is that,
Well, I think we got to pick a number, but we don't have to do it tonight, but we got to pick a number. I prefer we did it tonight, but we don't have to.
50 would be a compromise?
50, if you can get the votes by all. Absolutely.
I'll buy pizza.
So you could vote to recommend this go to public hearing at the next meeting. And we will publish this chart as it is, or whatever changes that you decide to make tonight. That's why I would prefer, if you're going to make a change, I would prefer to make it tonight so that we can post publicly the chart that is going to public hearing and that you're likely to consider. You could table this idea to a time in the future as you so desire. Those are essentially your 2 options for this evening. And if you do
These numbers were developed with the master planning committee,
Yep, Mass Plan Steering Committee, yep.
steering committee.
Yep.
There's already been a lot of input on different levels.
Yeah, we've talked about this at probably 4 or 5 meetings.
I have a question, Dean, on the residential ones. You had pointed out the RA. That the current 9 for the density, a lot of the units on Blueberry Lane are already more than that.
Yes.
So would changing it to 12, would that make them compliant then? The
It
ones that you
could.
did, or some of them still going to be over the
It could,
12?
I did do that calculation, but it's been several months now. Certainly, you've got a better shot at being conforming with the number 12 than you do with the 9. Now, the newer stuff that's like, say, down at Apple Ridge, that was done to the 9 because
Mhm.
we've had that number
Yeah.
for a while.
Perhaps someone could educate me as far as green space. Is the idea to keep things more aesthetically pleasing, or is it more an issue of having drainage, stormwater drainage, places for stormwater, rainwater? To
I would say it's both.
Combination.
I would say it's both.
It's both.
Certainly, we want to keep as much stormwater on an individual's property as we can. When you are in certain areas of the city where you have a lot of small lots and fairly high density already, like in the RG zone, that's not happening now. It certainly is not going to happen necessarily if we change the number. For existing lots, probably nothing changes significantly. We're really talking about the few lots that are undeveloped right now and or could be subdivided or something like that.
Clean up. Turn that, bend that mic down. Your mic. You didn't want the special effects, did you, Dean?
Doesn't bother me.
Okay, we could add reverb. Are there any other questions for planning director?
Did you want me to mention conservation?
Yeah.
Commission?
Speak right up.
So the Conservation Commission has already seen this and they understood that there need to be changes so that there is conformity. For example, the RG section, they were very concerned about the infrastructure not being able to withstand any more density in there. With that said, they were hoping for obviously the least amount of green space reduced, which is why I tossed in that 50 for the, I think it was RG. Yes, so for RG, that's the older section of town. And to make things conform, it would have to be at 40, right?
I mean, every lot's different, but, overall, one of the goals of any of these numbers is to try to have as many properties within the zone conform as possible. They're not all going to conform, no matter what you do. There's always going to be non-conforming lots. That will continue to be the case in the RG zone or any of the other zones. But I think that you got a better shot of, if you have a 6,000 square foot lot now, which is 60 by 100, which is, again, is a very standard lot. Once you put a footprint of say a 1,000 square foot house, which could be a 2,000 square foot house, multi-story, obviously. You have a driveway, you have a garage, you have a porch, maybe you have a patio, 6,000 square feet goes real quick. And so if you have a 6,000 square foot lot now or less, believe me, there's a number of lots that are 3,000 square feet or less. It's unbelievable. Then, that's even more so. But there's probably not a whole lot you can do about those lots. They are what they are. And, they're going to be, they're 80% now or 90% now. They're going to be 80 or 90% when you're done. It's as simple as that. But if you can raise a number of lots that are now non-conforming to conforming, that's a good goal to try to achieve. Now, that's not the only goal here, but that's a good goal. The other thing is that we've talked about, like at the Master Plan Steering Committee, is particularly in the RG zone, but in some cases in the RS zone as well, is people want to do things to their property. They want to add a porch, they want to add a garage. And while setbacks are an issue, as the folks, like Mike's on the zoning board, will tell you, setbacks are an issue. People come in and require relief from setbacks all the time, but they also, in many cases, need relief from their green space, because even if you put the garage at the setbacks, you don't have enough green space. So it's to an effort, yes, to bring some lots into conformity, but it's also an effort to allow people who have existing conditions an opportunity to do something additional to their property that probably right now they can't do without getting a variance.
Any other questions? So our options, if I understand it correctly, is that we could table this. We could vote to schedule a public hearing. I think those are our options at this point. Not necessarily.
Accept the table in order to schedule a public hearing.
No, oh, I think we just need a motion that passes to schedule it for a public hearing and then,
I think it would help if we could, the ones where we have 30 or 40, if we can narrow down what we're more comfortable with.
right.
So for the public hearing, we have a more specific plan for the people to make comments on. I think that would help.
Well, that's true, but we would still be asked to make a vote at the conclusion of the public hearing, which could indeed adopt them then. However you want to make the motion, whoever chooses to make the motion.
I think I'd be more comfortable listening to the public. I agree with Brett. It'd be easier if we just threw out a number and say, here it is, but in light of what the vice chair said, I mean, there's going to be some difference of opinion on this stuff, and it's probably better that we get more input than not. So I'd move we have a public hearing. I'm just trying to think which would be the less congested meeting to have it at, either June or July.
Well, it's not a pressing issue by any means.
No, it is not, but no, I don't think the June meeting has been determined yet in terms of what we have for applications yet.
And we probably won't have a line out the door on this one. So
Hence
we have a
the-
motion by Representative Saint.
But Charlie,
Yes, Charlie.
thank you.
Is there a second?
He ain't no saint.
Hang on.
I second the
Always
motion.
got to get the last.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion
So we'll just do June.
to June, the June meeting? All right, and is that any other? Okay. Sensing no further discussion, could we have a call of the roll, please? Do we still have to do that? We don't need to.
Charlie's here.
Oh, all right, just so long as none of the board members, everybody's here. All right, so how about a show of hands then? All those in favor? Opposed? And it passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Trefethan. Looks like we have one request for extension before us this evening. PL 2019-0092 SP, Endicott Street East. It's the solar project. Request to extend the approval to install the solar garden on city property. This is the one on the former landfill site, if I'm not mistaken, right? Okay. How do we do with the legislature with the net power issue? Is there somebody here to speak on the extension this evening?
They're on Zoom.
Oh. Wouldn't even think of that. Good evening. Hello?
Hey, Brandon, you're on mute.
Hi,
Hello, good afternoon. Sorry.
no problem.
Little lag going from an attendee to participant. Good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Brandon Chinfield. I represent GSSG. We're the current owners of the solar project. And we're requesting an extension. We did submit with our request a letter. I'm not sure if everybody has read it. I'd be more than happy to summarize if that would be helpful.
We all have it. Does anyone have any questions about the content of the letter? So Brandon, now, just in a nutshell, where are we with the limits of how much power you can generate here?
Yeah, so my company, we acquired the rights to this project back in December, a few months after the legislation from the state changed so that the city of Laconia, as well as other what are called political subdivisions, be it the school district and other bodies of that sort, can actually be beneficiaries of the solar project. So we acquired it. Right now, the ideal project size is almost 3 megawatts, a little bit shy of that. Our intent was to have this be a construction for 2022 project. But as outlined in this letter, there's a number of of mainly procurement issues that I've never seen in my 15 years of doing solar that is challenging us from having it be placed in the ground this year. So we're trying to ride the procurement wave, as you can say, and ensure that this is a 2023 placed in construction project.
You factored in any projected changes in the materials cost?
Hopefully not. We're certainly, we are trying to work with our suppliers to mitigate any potential cost increases. There's many parties who want to see this go through, and so everybody is really trying to assist us in ensuring that the challenges caused by the COVID manufacturing shutdowns, as well as this other Department of Commerce case that we mentioned in here, don't derail the project.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Brandon? All right, well, sensing none, what's the pleasure of the board? He's asking for an extension to, do we need a date or just August?
Is it August or December?
August 2023 for the plan.
Okay. So the board generally approves extensions for 1 year.
Yeah,
So this would go beyond the 1 year.
No,
No,
no. It's
The
other one goes to August.
this one they have now goes to August of,
22.
right,
right.
so they've got
Another year.
12 months.
Thank you. for the clarification.
Yeah, they still had some time left,
Yeah.
so.
It's a legitimate concern. Everybody here knows that getting goods and services is getting difficult.
Oh, it's ridiculous, yeah.
I'd make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Charlie.
I'd make a motion for PL 2019-009 2SP, Endicott Street East, et cetera, to give them the extension for 1 year up to August of 2023.
Motion by Mr. St.
I'll
Clair
second.
and a second by Ms. Jenna. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Hope to see you out there soon.
So in what's become a regular series here, we have a continued public hearing before us this evening. It is PL 2013-0100 SP amended, et cetera, 264 Lakeside Avenue, the Tower Hill Tavern. And is Anthony here? Or is he on Zoom? Anthony, are you with us? Anthony.
It's Anthony.
Is it the Prince
Princeton.
Spaghetti? Yeah, we're old. Mr. Santagate? He could be otherwise indisposed.
Music might be on too.
Do you, is he there, but we're not getting audio, Rob?
Anthony, you can speak.
Can he not hear us? Hello, Anthony. How are things up the Weirs?
Oh, is this thing on mute?
He's saying, I just got a text from him, so I'm here.
Well, he's
So
here.
there's some break, there's something.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, how long will it take him to actually physically get here? He could be here by the end of the meeting, couldn't he?
Have him call you, Charlie, and just hold your phone up to the mic so we can hear.
This time.
Seriously?
Oh, sure. You're obviously the only one with his number.
Excuse us, folks, while we get some technical difficulties out of the way.
How long is his telephone number?
Just,
I'm not, I just sent him a text wise guy.
Oh.
You're just a regular comedian.
You can't hold the text up to the microphone.
I just told him to call me wise. God, these guys are out of control over here.
just text him and tell him to
I just
take the
told him to
mute
call me.
button off, the
to
mute
do-
button off.
Oh, he's calling me now. Okay, so you're on speaker now. So what do you want me to do?
I can't get on. I can see everybody and I can hear everybody, but I can't.
We can hear him
We-
well.
We have you through a
have to push the
super high-tech innovation.
I see that.
Okay, so I think you need to turn, if you have some background speakers or something, turn them off because you'll get these
Okay, a
terrible
little better.
feedback loops.
Yes.
Okay. Anthony, tell us now, what's going on up there?
I'm having a great time up here at Ware's Beach.
We know you have a good time, Anthony.
I work hard.
Last week,
We're trying to stay open late. Right now, I guess this meeting is about music until 2 o'clock in the morning, which I'm not too concerned about. I'm more concerned about staying open till 2 and keeping the party going a little bit later.
right, and I think we've covered the fact that the liquor part of it is not within our jurisdiction.
Right.
So what are you asking us to do tonight?
Well, tonight is just an extension from prior, so I mean, if you want to let me have music till 2, that's fine. If not, I understand. What I'm trying to do is to get the city council to at least start the proceedings to stay open till 2. And that's what I'm going to be working on.
Okay,
So he's asking from us for music to be extended from the time it is now inside until 2 a.m.
Right.
Period. That's all.
Mhm.
Nothing else.
just music
Just music.
inside.
This
till
doesn't
2.
have anything to do with alcohol because I didn't put it on my application. But I'd like to serve alcohol till 2 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, we know that, Charlie.
I'm Charlie.
And
I mean, music only. This is.
We can't do alcohol, so.
Anthony. All right, so the only question before the board is whether, assuming it's within our jurisdiction, that we can extend you the right to have the bands play right up until the time that everybody has to legally leave your establishment.
Right.
No. They can stay there 24 hours if he so desires to be open. He's just asking for music, live music until 2 a.m. And nothing to do with when
Right.
people have to leave.
Gotcha.
Says business hours from 1 to 2.
Yeah, I thought the music was last month.
The application says that you're extending your business hours from 1 to 2.
Right.
Okay, so you're
Well, actually,
closing at 2.
that would be indoor drinking. My pizza parlor stays open until 2 or 3 in the morning on the weekends.
Okay.
And that's all out the window. It's
They can
really
do
to
that.
go.
Again, this is just music, so
Right,
don't,
right. Music inside.
I'm asking everybody, don't cloud the waters by asking about
Right.
food service or anything like that. This is strictly to extend the music, the live music inside, not outside. And Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong, you're asking for this for weekends and special events only, correct?
Yeah, weekend special events. Like when it's busy, I don't want to close. I'd like to stay open for an extra hour.
Okay, so everybody's clear with that. He's only asking, whether it says that or not, only weekends and special events. If it doesn't say that on the application,
Oh,
we could
kind of have
put
to
that
go
in.
with what's.
no,
on
we can
Amended.
amend it
Conditions.
or put a
Okay.
condition. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
I would
Help.
like to, I'd like to point out, the last time I saw 2 o'clock in the morning was probably 30 years ago. That said, there was quite a bit of argument and discussion about the sound of music traveling and bothering the neighbors and whatever. This gentleman put quite a bit of money into repairing all of that. And at least to my understanding, it's worked. They've done tests to be sure the sound inside is not heard outside. whether it's 2 in the morning or any other time. So he's made a real, I just want to make the point. He's made a real effort to try and deal with bothering the neighbors. And so I'm not sure another hour of music is going to be a major malfunction for me.
It might be for the bands, though.
Oh, it might well be, yes.
Well,
That's his problem, though.
No, okay, and I'm just drawing everyone's attention to the fact that the application actually says extend business hours. So as Charlie points out, that we don't have any regulation over if he wants to stay open 24 hours a day to sell pizza, I guess he can do that
Correct.
without further planning board approval. So the issue is just the music until 2, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's what the application
Live
says.
music, yeah.
All right. Any questions for the applicant before Charlie gets a cramp in his right arm?
I have a
Yes,
quick
Scott.
question for the applicant. Anthony, I know from my own experience, last call can be an issue trying to get all the drinks up. Sometimes you get pushback from
Right.
patrons. Do you think that extending the music to 2 a.m. is going to make that job harder on you and your staff?
No, we have plenty of, I have plenty of security and they're responsible for getting all that stuff cleaned up. So there's no issues, whether it's an hour before, an hour later.
All right, Anthony, and my other point too, I made it at the last meeting, is based on public input at prior hearings. I would hope that your security personnel would make sure that people exit the area rather quietly, especially if they're walking up the hill to where all the motel rooms, cottages, and
Yeah.
year-round residents are. I know you don't have any control over where people park, but
We actually had a meeting today with Detective Mike, I don't know his last name, and Mike Noyes and Sean. Mike, and,
Chris Noyes.
Officer Fenoble and Officer Noyes. And we met with them for about an hour today, and we talked about all the different things that we can, tackle. And one of the things was the church parking lot, and having an officer back there, at least at the end of the night, would be very helpful. And he agreed. And I guess you can talk with him a little bit more about our meeting. We went over a bunch of stuff. And I think it's going to be a lot smoother every night we work, I think it'll be good.
okay. Yes.
Anthony, I asked you last month if you had gone to your neighbors just to get a feel on how they feel. Did you approach them at all?
I talked with 2 of my neighbors. I talked with Wade, who has the property right behind me, and he's always concerned about, the music being too loud and this and that. And so far, we had a great conversation the other day. I'm going to rent some of his spot for parking, just for some of the events. And he was very nice. And he likes what I'm doing. And I talked today with Chuck, who owns the Maple Moose behind me, and he's all for everything that I'm doing. I really haven't talked with anybody else.
Okay.
And I was going to say no because I thought this was every night, but are you saying it's only on special events?
And Friday and Saturday.
And weekends, Friday, Saturday night. Because we usually have a packed house on Fridays and Saturdays.
But not Sunday night, and we can put that in the,
Yeah, not Sunday night. Yeah, we don't open the upstairs on Sunday nights. It's just Friday and Saturday night.
Well,
Okay.
Unless we're going to define what a special occasion is, I think we just got to
Well,
let
the
it.
special events would be the festivals, Bike Week.
He needs a permit, doesn't he?
Yeah, we do special events.
Like
You
week
need a
festivals
special
and
permit for
festivals.
special
Permit
events
for
anyway.
Those
right?
are all taken care of.
Okay,
Those are taken
But we
care
can
of.
add special events and weekends
okay,
as part of our approval.
all right.
I'd like to make a motion.
Please, Ms. Jenna.
I make a motion to approve application PL 2013-0100 Amendment 3 on the conditional approval that they will be playing music on the weekends and special events until 2 a.m. I get all of that.
Motion made by Ms. Jenna. Is there a second?
A second.
Second, Mr. Belleville.
Put that-
Question?
Put that on hold for a moment. You need to do a public hearing.
Oh, indeed we do. We've had so many. 7:21, we're going to declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard in favor or opposed to Anthony's 2 AM extension? Anybody online waiting to be recognized? We have a person who has just raised their virtual hand.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, good evening.
Hi, my name's Joe Bayusik. I live at 31 Carriage Lane in Long Bay.
Can I get your name again, please?
Joe,
Charlie, mute him. Mute him.
Joe Bayusik,
Oh,
B-A-Y.
yes, Joe, okay, thank you.
31 Carriage Lane in Long Bay.
Yep,
I would just like to say I'm in favor of Anthony's proposal, and in full disclosure, my daughter worked at Tower last summer. She's a college student. She basically worked Friday and Saturday night, and working part-time as a college student, helping to pay her way through college. She would often come home with $400 or $500 in tips. And I think this is a great way for college kids to make and earn a living and be able to actually afford college. So I think it's a great idea.
well, there you go.
Still have more.
I hope the IRS doesn't monitor our meetings here. She makes a lot of money. Anyway, well, thank you. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard? Any butters or members of the public? Okay, sensing none. Close the public hearing at 7:23. We have a motion pending. I apologize for that. Did staff want to be heard on this? So we're doing everything all kind of backwards tonight.
First of all, I want to make sure that you understand that special events we have a special events board, takes those applications, we have Motorcycle Week, we have like the Coffee Fest, we have Pumpkin Fest, we have all kinds of activities that occur under that, and they take care of hours of operations, noise, et cetera, et cetera. So you're not giving carte blanche here, but anyway.
So we're only dealing with weekends. then?
Friday, Saturday.
Weekends
Still
with,
has to-
with the idea of approval of special events.
Yeah,
as-
that's
as
what I'm
well.
saying.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read the staff recommendation just to put it on the complete record here. Given the controversy generated with last year's application, it does not seem wise for the board to change the conditions with so little time or experience with the present situation. Should the board grant a conditional approval, staff has no further recommendations for the subject property. All conditions from the previous approvals would still apply to the property, and any approval would only extend the hours of operation by 1 hour.
Dean, could we approve it, but only for 1 year? Make him come back next year and
You do not have that power.
we don't.
No.
Can we make it a condition of approval that he come back and report to us at some point? Maybe the end of the season?
Yes.
So that way, that would give us an opportunity to do what you're suggesting, is to see how it works out. This has been quite a saga.
Right.
When it was first presented to us, it was a 10-year-old approval that had never been complied with, et cetera. So he's made all the structural changes.
So in theory, you could revoke a site plan application or a condition of site plan application with, good reason. Using this application as an example, if we were inundated with noise complaints, then that would be a potential reason to come back to the board to change the condition of the approval, maybe back to 1 o'clock or
Yeah,
whatever the board decided to do. You know, in other cases, it's a matter of if people are not living up to the conditions of their approval, then you could revoke. I will tell you that always ends up in other places, i.e. court,
right.
but you certainly could do that.
I just thought maybe we could put him on probation or something, but I guess
Yeah.
we can't do that. So, all right then. Charlie?
I have a question, Dean. I guess, so in the last year, since all these improvements or changes were made in construction up there, have you had complaints
I
about?
have not had any noise complaints to this office. We did do a report from the police department, and I believe it was one noise complaint, and it was like at 9:30 or 9:45. So,
Right, so that's, well, that definitely wasn't late. Okay.
Right.
Thank you. I think that says.
That
a
was
lot.
PM, right?
yes.
Because he can, you know, as Charlie said, he could stay open on.
Oh, yeah, he's got breakfast up there.
Yeah, those
sometimes.
pizza eaters get
Pizza
rowdy.
eaters get rowdy
Does the
sometimes.
owner of those cottages come back and call at all?
No,
I think it was Blue Moon Cottage.
Half Moon.
half moon,
Half Moon.
blue moon,
Well,
half
They,
moon.
they have said, because I've asked, I see them quite regularly, and they've said they've had no problems at all.
Well, that's
They
good.
have fixed it.
Okay. All right, we have a motion made and seconded.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, if we do approve this, what could trigger them coming back to the board? So, someone. I think that would be.
I'll let staff answer that one.
It would require a series of complaints that we felt constituted a violation of the conditions of approval.
But see, the only condition we're approving tonight is that he's allowed to stay open till 2 AM.
No,
Well,
have loud music, have music until 2 AM.
Yeah.
You can operate 24 hours.
Well, you're also reiterating the previous conditions of approval, which is the windows remain closed,
Yep.
the et cetera, et cetera.
The windows are sealed, they can't be opened.
I'm
so,
just saying.
all right, I'm just saying too.
Stuff happens, you know.
That's what the fire department has access for. All right. So, did that answer your question, Louis? Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of the board?
Have we already gone through an entire summer
Yes,
with the improvements?
yes,
Okay. Everything starts to blend.
I noticed. Yes, yes, we have.
Especially when Anthony is on the frequent flyer plan here. Say, "Hey, Anthony, how you doing, man? I haven't seen you for a month." All right. Yes, Brett. Oh,
I
Chief.
have on the, on our form in front of us, it says our final approval was August 2nd.
Right, but because we waited.
We had a 90-day
We
Okay.
waited.
temporary pass.
The last approval was August. I see. All right. All right.
So the windows have been sealed all summer.
That's correct.
Okay,
That was the reason for the delay.
gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Good job. Any other questions or comments? We'll put it to a vote then. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? We have two. So it was, do my math, 7 and 2,
That works.
6 and 2, 7 and 2. I voted 8 and 2. Okay.
Second, we only have 9 people. You got 10. How's that?
So it passed 8
I
to
don't
2.
Yes, 8 to 2, 7 to 2. Well, we only have 9 members, don't we? Right,
He's not, he didn't vote.
he
so-
wasn't voting.
Okay, so I don't know why you're telling us that he's there.
That's not the new math.
It's a 9-member board. I am an alternate.
Oh, okay, so Scott does vote. All right,
7.
7, yes, thank you for that math lesson. That's I mean, that's why you sit next to me. Okay, good.
So we're all set. We're moving on to the next.
I think we are.
Okay, great. Goodbye.
Yeah,
Just thanking everybody.
I'm gonna turn the gavel over to our vice chair. Shuffle my way out around.
Okay, up next, we have an amended site plan. PL 2020-0098 SP and 0099 CUP. And
And
it,
you need to appoint Scott to.
oh, thank you. Scott, you are now a voting member just for this issue. And do we have the applicant here?
Do we have to accept it first?
Thank you, and good evening. My name is Ron DeCola.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have, I may have screwed up a little bit. That's not unusual.
Motion to accept the application.
Okay, I thought because it was just an amendment, we were already, okay, thank you.
Second.
Sorry. Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm all for procedure.
Oh, hang on just 1 second. All those in favor? Oh, thank God, we're all in favor.
It's a good start. Ron DeCola, I represent Pogus One LLC, the ownership for 51 Elm Street, the development we're doing down there. And we're here tonight for an amendment to our site plan, basically pursuant to a recent Superior Court ruling, which remanded this case to the ZBA, which brought it down to you folks. And we were asked to file an amended site plan to show this concrete pilings, subsurface pilings on the site plan itself. Before they were not shown on the site plan. There was a ruling by the Superior Court that they are considered a structure and therefore should be shown on the site plan. So basically, we're here tonight to, Peter Howard is with me from Stephen Smith and Associates. He will show it to you on the site plan. I will say that the concrete pilings are within the setback, but the whole project is within the performance zone. So all setbacks relief has been provided through the, by virtue of a performance zone. So if you don't have any more questions for me, I'll bring Peter up.
Any questions for Ron?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Vice Chair and members of the board. My name is Peter Howard. I work for Stephen Smith and Associates, a division of Du Bois and King. And again, I'm here representing Pogus Elm One LLC. Just as a word of review, we were before the board on December 1st, 2020, and we did get the site plan approved as well as per the performance zoning permit. And that at that point, it was approved for this part of the project, a little bit of an L there, and then the garage. That's what's colored on the project here. The owner developer was able to purchase CJ Avery property and got a boundary line adjustment approved. So they added an addition to the project. These are both mixed use residential and commercial property. So, and that was June 1st, 2021. And as Mr. DeCola has shared with you, we're back here tonight as a result of current the events that have necessitated an amendment to the site plan and also reacceptance of the performance zoning here. Now, as Ron mentioned, wanted to be able to see where this, and it's not concrete, sorry, Ron, there's steel, steel piling which was driven as a construction technique because of the hole that had to be dug and the surrounding property and all that. So what I've done, and I think you may have site plans too, the sheet piling started at this point. This is Elm Street, this is Railroad Avenue. It comes up to Park Street, goes along Park Street property, goes back along and ends in about this location. It was set and then it has been cut off. It's approximately 30 inches below grade at this point. It definitely is within what would be site setback in this zone, just 5 feet. But as has been stated, and as the city has allowed for in this performance zoning district, we comply and have been accepted under those standards. So we're asking for an amendment. There's no other changes on the plan from the previous approval, site plan approval. And the only addition to the plan is the addition of the and a note about it, if you will, the steel sheet piling. Thank you.
Anybody have questions? No, then we will go to, and I'm wondering if we could just move that just a little. The artwork before I open the public hearing. Thank you. I'm gonna open the public hearing at 7:38. Do we have anybody on Zoom? Or
Nobody on Zoom has raised their hand to indicate they wish to speak for the application.
anybody in the audience?
Just one. My name is Peter Burnett. I'm the trustee of the Park Street Trust, the owner of the property located at 15 Park Street. You may have met me before. I hope the board all has a copy of the submission that I made to you. That last page of which highlighted where the setback encroachments are. So maybe I should start at the beginning. This is the third time I've spoken as an abutter before this board. And I have previously spoken in favor of this project. I think Mr. Everett shows vision. I love the plans. I thought everything was a big change for the better. Defended this project to those who reminisce for the good old days with the old wooden buildings that were there. But the whole character of Lakeport Square is changing, and it has almost everything to do with the efforts of Mr. Everett. But you see, there's a problem here, and the problem is not with Mr. Everett or his excellent representatives. It's not with Steve Smith, who walked the property with me over 2 years ago. We went along the property line. It's certainly not Peter here, who came out and replaced a pin for me a couple of weeks ago. The pin in this corner right here was obliterated when they put in the steel retaining walls. My problem is with the staff. My problem is with the planning director. We adopted performance zoning. We did that with the understanding that the staff was going to have more work, and then the ZBA was going to have somewhat less work. And we would be heavily relying upon staff recommendations. Through no fault of staff's, the plans that were submitted to this board in December and June, the last 2 times, did not show the steel. I was not aware until right around the time of the June meeting that they intended to extend the steel along my property line. Originally, it started along Elm Street. Well, that's Park. They went along Elm Street and then up Park Street. By the time they got to the corner of my driveway, I had dishes falling out of my cabinets. That's just from being down the street. So the applicant took measures as they should have done. They had a seismograph on site. They engaged with someone. They actually laid a seismograph along my property line where my cherry trees are. And so they could measure the amount of vibration in a scientific way. They inspected the foundations, my house and the surrounding houses. And then they drove those piles into my, into my property, actually. You see, because until the pin was replaced by Mr. Howard, I did not know that the steel is actually on my property in several places. And along this border with where the restaurant used to be, this is Railroad End, right?
That's Elm.
Okay, so these blocks right here, they pulled out some riprap, existing big rocks, and put in these attractive concrete blocks. And when they were put in, I thought they looked kind of close, but until that pin was replaced, they couldn't actually shoot a line and find out. So that handout I gave you shows you the extent of the encroachment. It's pretty much the southerly and easterly border of my property. Now, I don't know if you've ever been close to one of these things when they go in the ground, but they do a great deal of damage. My driveway is all cracks again, and the year before this went down, I paid good money to have all the cracks filled, and I had it sealed. I got a house. It's over 170 years old. It was one of the first houses on this side of the river in Lakeport. It has a mixture of stone and masonry foundation. The brick and the weaker parts have been damaged. A certain amount of that we understand. I mean, the reason the seismograph and the inspection and all that was because there's insurance for that. I wasn't worried so much about it. I've been living with this construction for a long time. You have no idea what it's like. They've got me completely surrounded. Mr. Everett bought the house directly across the street, the last non-commercial or non-house of worship on the street. It's just me and the church now, literally completely surrounded. I have no idea what his plans are for the vacant lot and the house that fronts on 4th Street that's directly across the street. Couldn't find a parking space anywhere in the neighborhood for the last couple of weeks because of all the tradesmen there, and I drive by and I think, this is good. This is good for the economy, and especially because the contractor has used the Bonnet Page and Stone has used local subs. So these are not, with the exception of certain specialized crews, like the guys that work the steel came from Greenland, I think, and some of the other contractors may have come from out of town because it was pretty unusual structure. It's entirely framed in steel, but it wears on you. And I have tenants, and it bothers them too. So this is what I'm here to tell you. I'm not trying to in any way impede the progress of this development. I think, it's good. What I'm looking for is mitigation to avoid litigation, because that's the road we're on. Now, I think it's actually amusing to me at least, but I have a strange sense of humor, that the only thing before you tonight is a site plan that shows the location of the retaining walls. Everybody knows where they are by now. I remember Tim Burke came to me when he first found out that Peter was upset because they were going to put the steel in along his line. And he grabbed the corner of the thing and he drew it in for me. And I was like, no, that's not the point. The point was, it wasn't on the plans that were submitted. It wasn't referenced in the applicant's materials. It wasn't referenced in the staff report. So as soon as I realized that the steel was going to be driven in along my property line, I called the planning director. I sent him an email, actually, and I followed it up with a call. And then he came back to me and he said, it's not a structure, it's a construction technique, and therefore it's allowed within the setback. Now, any of you ever looked up the definition of structure in the zoning ordinance? You know, it's basically anything that is constructed or erected at a fixed location on the ground or attached to something that is. A street sign would be a structure under our zoning ordinance. So I think at that point I realized that Dean was just as surprised as I was that these plans weren't shown on these walls weren't shown on the plan. Excuse me, I'm gonna grab my water bottle here. If I may. And he had to come up with something quick. So he said, well, it's not a structure, it's a construction technique. Okay. I knew at that moment that if I appealed to the Superior Court, they would look at the ordinance and agree that it is indeed a structure. But by the time all that took place, the steel was in. There wasn't anything I could do about it. I'm here to tell you that my house is covered with grit and sand and dust and dirt. It's going to be that way probably till the construction ends. It's just awful. My driveway's all split up. What you have before you is not just an amended site plan. Performance zoning goes towards the conditional use permit, doesn't it? We approved two things, a conditional use permit and a site plan. The amended site plan does nothing but, this is an as-built. You don't approve an as-built. This is the as-built. We know what happened. What I'm asking is that you impose conditions on the conditional approval, which is lawfully before you tonight. And that those conditions are the ones I've listed in my handout to you that are designed to mitigate the damage caused by the erroneous determination of the planning department. Now, if that doesn't happen, if I don't get mitigation, if I don't have some way to tell my tenants, well, you know, they're going to take care of it, don't worry about it, well, then the only other thing we have left is litigation. And that's not right. When performance zoning was first proposed to this body, I supported it. I know it was brought up and discussed at length in Master Plan Steering Committee. It was going to take some of the load for minor things like variances, special exceptions off the table from the ZBA.
Right, Peter, do you mind if I take a 5-minute recess?
Right now?
Yes.
Well,
Please.
you're the chair.
Do you have the handout? I didn't get
The list? No, it's in, I got it, I'm trying to, it's in an email.
You didn't,
There's no paper copy.
All of us?
I emailed it to all the members of the board and I think it should have been in the,
Do you have a copy with you?
I do.
Yeah,
We
because
could
I
just
didn't get it,
borrow
Peter.
Peter, I would appreciate.
Well, I don't need it. I mean, it's not much you can.
I'm gonna go find out.
Yeah, okay. Let it rest for this moment.
Yeah. I will.
Oh,
Not lose- do not lose this.
oh, no, no, no. Thank you. Peter.
Because I didn't see that either. I didn't- No, that's not.
Yeah.
true.
I have that.
You have that?
Yeah.
I told you I had it and now I can't.
What's that?
That's for all of us.
Okay,
Oh, it
right
is.
right there.
What's for all?
Where did you print it? So I guess they want to talk.
You want all of us?
Yep. Yes, they do. Sorry about this, Peter.
Not a problem.
Middle of a sentence, it's a problem.
What's going on?
I guess they want to talk.
Is the list there, Bruce, that we can glimpse at, whoever's next door?
Do what now?
The list, something that Peter put out.
Yes.
List of things.
Yes, that's it right there. Make sure she gets
I
it back.
promise. Good.
Oh, good for you. I miss that. I was so tired. Well, good for you. I think you'd be good at it. Who's the president?
You gotta go to all the meetings. She got nominated as chair of the planning board and she wasn't there. She missed it. She couldn't protest.
She couldn't have been a better choice either. She's gonna be great. I've never had the entire board walk out before. Was Joe in the back signaling? So did she adjourn the public hearing?
A recess.
She took a recess.
There's no bathroom on the floor downstairs. Yeah, I'll pause it. I figured I'd put that on pause.
Was that Anthony?
A couple of the older gentlemen had to go to the bathroom.
You think I don't?
I had to go too, but there was too many of them.
Oh, yes, the old line.
Comedians everywhere I go.
I'm gonna hold my.
So we're still missing
Scott and Bruce.
Scott and Bruce,
Bruce told me that he's fine if you,
and
Um,
Scott's not voting on this.
He might want everybody.
Scott is
Yeah,
voting
he is
because he
voting on
took
this.
your place.
Just wait. Let's just wait. a second.
Just wait.
First week. Oh, yeah, it's- Work going late. It's like-
I got a lot to do. 50 years of hard labor.
It's hard to shut that off.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Everybody that was trying to jump on that housing.
Find out what am I
Pairing.
Yeah, house project stuff. It's like, how did I do this? So.
Squeezing in after supper. doing
Yeah, mowing in the dark or
Saturday
whatever.
morning.
So they're selling.
There we go.
Just with the line in the men's room, you'd think we had a keg party up here.
That's a good idea.
How'd you figure it out?
I'll drink
Oh,
to
I never get invited to anything since I quit drinking.
I second that motion.
Thank you.
So
I
moved.
apologize.
Don't apologize. Never apologize for doing your job, Madam Vice Chair. Let me just sum up this way. The plans, some of the plans did indicate that there was going to be an encroachment. I didn't realize myself until about a month ago that there's an emergency exit, the parking garage that's about, well, 10 feet from the sidewalk, and it opens into my cherry trees. So they're gonna have to have a 4-foot paved walkway out to the street. That's another encroachment within the setback. That 5-foot setback. The building itself, the parking garage, very attractively sided and everything now, is approximately 5 feet from my property line. Maybe a little bit more, but the steel is either on the property line or within inches or a foot, all the way around. Okay. There were 3 questions that were presented initially to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which is the first step in the appeal process. There were 3 questions. The first question, and these are substantially the same questions that went to the Superior Court. Was the determination of the Director of the Planning and Economic Development correct that the installation of a steel retaining wall within the setback is permissible because it is not a structure as defined under the zoning ordinance, but a construction technique? In response to that question, the court ruled it is indeed a structure. So they remanded it to the ZBA, and what the ZBA should have done is said, yes, the planning director, answered the question in the affirmative. I can't make any sense out of the gibberish that was in their minutes from the motion that was actually made, which was then unmade, apparently in non-public session, and then published. It's a long story, but it wasn't helpful. The issue is the Superior Court has said, yes, the planning director was in error when he ruled that those structures, once brought to his attention, were not structures. The second issue is moot. The second issue is about whether the proper setback was 5 or 25. Depends on where in the table of dimensional requirements you wanted to put it. And it is moot because there was never any doubt whatsoever that the steel retaining walls were within the setback, whether it was 5 or 25. And the third question was the one that I think caused the ZBA to conflate issues 1 and 2. The third question was whether this body, whether its approval was proper when these structures were not shown on any plans, were not referenced on any plan notes, and were not addressed in the planning department's report. Now, remember, performance zoning means that the planning department is going to do all the work that the ZBA would have done and sort of streamline the ability, the purpose of which was to draw well-heeled developers to the city. I think we've done a pretty good job at that. I had no idea at the time that I was going to end up in the position that I'm in, but I'm here. So that third question is the reason why I'm telling you, you're not just here to revisit a site plan and adopt an as-built, because that's what that is. You're here to revisit the conditional use permit. And therefore, it is possible and permissible and totally legal for you to impose new conditions, given the fact that these encroachments occurred. The purpose of the setback is to minimize the effect on abutters of major developments. I can't think of any other circumstance other than mitigation that makes sense. Even if you were to say, well, we don't want to get into that, there's no rule of law of which I'm aware, nor any violation of the ordinance whatsoever, if you approve the as-built with conditions. My conditions are listed in there. These are mitigations. And again, the purpose for the mitigation is to avoid further litigation, which frankly, I don't want to do. The whole thing has got me very upset. But I'm not upset at the development. I'm not upset at my neighbors. I'm not upset at the hundreds of jobs that this job has created. I'm upset at my planning department because they let me down. That's all. You have
So-
any questions?
Yes.
I bet you do. Brett, oh, you
What-
call them.
I think I don't know what they were going to say. I'm not going to go there, but I don't think all of us have seen your actual mitigation requests. So can you just give us your list?
Well, I was looking for a copy. I thought,
And that way the people in the audience can also.
Peter, I have one here.
I thought that staff would have distributed them.
There you go.
I just run through them for you. Okay, thank you. Okay, so landscaping. I don't think that's an unreasonable request. What we're talking about is the disturbance to the soil along my property. This was a landscaped area to begin with. I have these beautiful ancient cherry trees in there. There are plantings in between them, perennials, things like that. Right now, there's a trench about waist high that runs along the outer wall of the parking garage. That it's a partially backfilled hole. They put it at that level so the masons could put the block. They put decorative block on the side of the building. I'm asking that that be backfilled. I've already asked Tim from BPS with loam or compost or something that will give my trees a chance to rebound, because the roots were all chopped off. They have cut the steel back, so now there's an opportunity for the trees and perennials to spread out a little bit. I just would like a professional landscaping company to be engaged for the purpose of restoring and improving, not only along that line, but along the other line. In fact, the whole southerly and easterly line in both places, there have been setback encroachments. The driveway, I already told you about the driveway. It occurs to me that before this project is done, and I have some assurances from city officials that this will be done, that the four streets that constitute my little neighborhood, which is Railroad Avenue, Park Street, 4th Street, and Gold Street, which ties them all together parallel to Elm, will be reconstructed. They were not in good shape to begin with. Railroad Ave and Park Street weren't even accepted city streets, I don't think. Although maintained, for centuries. At that point in time, not right away, I think a proper mitigation for the damage that was done to my driveway would be 1 inch of asphalt. They're going to have paving crews there anyway. They're already going to be connecting this. The sidewalk currently ends at my driveway, the curbed sidewalk. It comes up from the corner of Gold Street and ends at my driveway. They're going to continue it from the edge of my driveway to Elm, and it's going to be very nice. So I think that's a reasonable request. Fencing, I'm not asking them to fence the property line along the parking garage, as Steve Smith and I discussed. If they would be willing to landscape that area, I'd be willing to maintain it. I think it would be, the people that are using the parking garage may or may not care that much about it. My understanding is that the parking garage is actually going to have like steel mesh screen installed between the knee wall and the ceiling, the roof of the structure for security purposes, which is again why they had to have the emergency exit door. So I am asking that they put something more decorative by way of fencing when they build that little spur sidewalk that comes out to their emergency exit door. But along the easterly line, where the dumpsters are going to be, we would like a high privacy fence installed. Now, that's something that they need to work with me and the landscape contractor on, because the riprap wall, not the riprap wall, but the new block retaining wall is pretty much right up to the property line or within the setback. So I think it would make sense to have the fencing and the landscaping done at the same time. Dust mitigation, somebody, please. You wouldn't believe it. I remember I had a conversation on site last summer with one of the owner's representatives, and I asked him if my tenants and I could have car wash coupons, and he laughed. He says, "You would not believe how much dust and dirt is put on it, and that stuff is on my house permanently. So, how much is it going to cost them to hydro wash my house?" The foundation repair, that was probably going to be done in the normal course, but I'd like to make it a condition of their new CUP, that one of my representatives and their representative go back and repeat the whole inspection that they did last year. And wherever there has been foundation damage, I'm not trying to get money out of this. I just want to get a viable foundation. I want to make sure that my house doesn't fall in somewhere down the line. It's mostly the barn foundation that suffered the most. And then the lighting. I think they're already required to have all downcast lighting on the plan. There wasn't anything that I could see in the documents submitted about what the interior lighting of that parking garage is going to be. That parking garage runs pretty much the whole length of the southerly line. And it's, maybe 10 feet from the edge of my driveway. I would hate for them to put sodium vapor lamps or something in there so that I can, see my trees in silhouette all night long. There's no need for that. They need to have some security lighting. We understand that this is going to be a a keyed entry, automatic garage door. They could have motion detectors on the lights for that matter. And that's all I'm asking. These are not unusual requests. As the board is well aware, we often require quite lengthy lists of mitigations whenever a proposal like this is before the board. And especially where, as here, there's been an error on the part of the city that's resulted in harm to one of the abutters. It's the whole purpose of having setbacks and having staff reviews and having planning board hearings before these things are approved. So I would ask you to all take that into consideration in your deliberations tonight and probably have more questions.
Charlie.
Thank you. Well, a couple questions, Peter. On the first one, the landscaping, is that a one-time thing?
Yes.
Okay. And the second one is, have you approached the project managers or the owner or anybody with this list of mitigation?
I've discussed with Tim Burke from BPS, who's been the project, he's the project manager for the general.
Mhm.
I've discussed some of this stuff with him and he's like, well, no problem. They got guys on site that could do most of this stuff. And he has, they've done some really nice things. Christmas time.
No, I understand all that, but my point is, have you approached them? I mean, the only one that can see that will be probably the most costly for them is the asphalt.
Yeah, no, I haven't, because this is not about the developer. I did not take the developer to court.
No, I
took the
understand.
city to court.
I understand, but
Yeah.
you're making this mitigation, you're asking us to do it.
Yes.
On that, but I'm just curious if, that's why I want to know, you said you spoke to Tim, and
Right.
he's good.
Yeah.
I just want to know about, so did you want them to put the asphalt down or the city?
No, I want the developer to do
Okay,
it.
so again.
How many thousands of dollars of mitigation did Anthony have to do to Tower
No,
Hill Tavern?
I'm just asking.
Okay.
I'm not arguing. I'm just asking.
And
for
he's
that.
not a multimillionaire,
No,
unlike the developer.
no, I understand. Thank you.
No. I've already answered.
And
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Sure.
Again, Ron DeCola representing ownership. First of all, that's not an as-built plan. An as-built plan is a plan that's done after completion of whatever construction that may be at the time. That is an amended site plan pursuant to what the Superior Court ordered us to do. I wasn't involved in the initial planning and zoning process, but I did do some homework and some discussions with other people who were, and to the best of my recollection, Mr. Burnett, all these concerns that Mr. Burnett were not brought up prior to the approval that this board granted to this project. So I have to question why these concerns are brought up at this point in time. I have some answers on that, but also we are working very closely with him, our project manager. Tim Burke is a site superintendent for BPS. Our project manager, Mike Locken, works very closely with Peter to manage and things and all that. And to my knowledge, the relationship has been very good. We are victims of circumstance here. This is not our fault that this situation has come around, and we should not be penalized because of it. We're happy to cooperate and work with Mr. Burnett and try to make him happy on some things, but the line's got to be drawn somewhere. So we're asking the board to consider that, and go ahead.
I think of permission. I have permission. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to usurp your authority.
So I guess my question would be, is that you heard the list of things he'd like mitigated.
I read his letter also.
Okay, so you think that you would be, the organization would be being punished by, if you went along with all this stuff? That would be
Absolutely. Well, with these issues wouldn't be raised here tonight if it wasn't for this and his ongoing issue with us and the development.
That's true, but nonetheless, it's here now.
So why should we be punished after the fact?
So you would consider the loam and the.
Yes, we would consider some things, yeah.
No,
But
you
I
would
mean,
consider that being punished is what I'm asking.
I consider that being a good neighbor, things like that.
So not being punished.
Oh, yeah, but some things, yeah, it's over and above. It's unjust enrichment is what it is on his part, and we're not gonna go for that. So.
So I think the question leading off of that is, from the 6 things that Mr. Burnett went over that for mitigation, which ones would you be comfortable addressing?
We have monitored his foundation. People have been in there and they put seismic indicators and all that there. The site superintendent and our project manager are there every day and they monitor things. We'd be happy to meet with him and go over some things and see if we can come to some kind of an agreement. But we're not in a position to agree to this thing tonight. And, seeing how he's threatening litigation and mitigation and all this stuff, I want the record to reflect that a few months ago, Mr. Burnett approached one of our employees, and for the sum of $10,000 donation to the church, all his issues would go away. We had that in writing. So I ask that the board strongly consider that. So for $10,000 donation to the church, all of a sudden he has no concerns with all these other issues. So can you see through all this? I mean, we certainly can. We want to be good neighbors. We're putting tens of millions of dollars into Believeport. And but enough is enough. And we won't be shaken down. And that's what it was.
That's pretty strong language. So
I'm sorry, it is what it is.
Ron. Several of the things Peter's asking for seems like it would be required of the developer to do when the project is done. Like if you damage your neighbor's property, you have to fix it when the project's over, such as pressure washing the house. Maybe the fence is not too much asked for, landscape is not too much asked for. If there's damage to the foundation, you have to repair that. That's already like a give me without extra talking about it. The lighting, I'm sure you have a good plan for that.
Yeah, and it's downcast lighting.
The only thing that really seems to be the issue is the driveway. Everything else is,
Well, I think he makes reference to redoing those streets also, I think Park Street and Railroad Ave.
well, that's the city's gonna
That's the
do that.
cities.
Yeah,
city's doing that.
but he did make reference to that, did he not, in his letter?
Well, just saying that was being done.
You know, the only extra thing I see that is not required of you to do would be his driveway, which may or may not have been damaged during construction. I'm
That's
not
the
sure.
key word, that may or may not have. you know.
Right, I'm
It's
not
our
sure
word
about
against
that.
his.
But to ask you to pressure wash the house is no big deal. You know, you need to put a fence up around the dumpster. That's already in your plan. Landscaping's in the plan. So it seems like everything Peter's asking for, except the driveway, tend to do
Then why can't we just stick to the original plan and accept the amendment as proposed tonight?
without stipulations.
Yeah, those stipulations, like you said, most of that's incorporated into the approval, into the plan anyhow, and I agree with that, and we want to be good neighbors, and that's okay with us, but none other than these circumstances.
Any other questions? Any other comments from the public?
Peter, you stood up, you sat back down. You're all set.
Okay, so are we ready to end the,
Madam Chair, can you
Thank you.
just remind all what exactly we're considering here?
Oh,
Is
this is
application
Public
or
hearing,
amendment,
public hearing.
staff review?
I haven't ended the
sorry, yeah.
public hearing yet.
I'm sorry.
So all I'm concerned about is that every member of the public got to speak. Because I don't want to reopen the hearing. So if everybody has, are you
Are you done with
okay?
me? Yeah, I'm not.
Had your say? Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you. So if everybody has had that opportunity, I will close the hearing at 8:22. And then I would like to hear from staff.
This should come as no surprise that we recommend that you grant the conditional approval with the following criteria. All conditions from the planning board approval on June 1st, 2021 remain in effect. And allow setbacks to be reduced in accordance with performance zoning to allow this project to move forward as depicted on the proposed plans. As you know, you have already approved this plan twice using performance zoning. This is just a reiteration of that approval process.
Questions for staff?
Yeah. Dean, are you suggesting that and I'm assuming it was a mistake, but they've encroached on the setback requirement. That we have to accept that? I mean, not that I'm gonna.
As part of performance zoning, the planning board can give relief to the setback requirement, which you have done twice already on this project with the two separate proposals. December of 20 approval included relief from the setbacks along Elm and Railroad Avenue. The June 21 approval included relief from the setback of Mr. Burnett's easterly property line, his rear property line, where the constructed retaining wall is now. That was on the plan that was approved in June. It was in the setback on the plan, clearly. So you're in effect adding the steel ribbon that is going to be below ground when they finish within the side setback to Mr. Burnett's property, which you can do under performance zone.
Are you suggesting that his list of mitigation, as he refers to them, is inappropriate or outrageous?
I think that's a negotiation that needs to occur between Mr. Brunette and the developer.
That's what you believe. Do you think this board has a right to set those as additional conditions to this approval?
The board has the right to set reasonable conditions of approval. The question here, I believe, is which ones are reasonable and which ones go beyond the norm. And it's easy for us to poo-poo the cost of something, but all of these items have a cost to them, and a couple of them, they're going to be done anyway. The landscaping is part of the plan that's going to be done, so there's no additional cost to do that. But the other items, there is a cost, and whether you have the right to set a condition for the developer to incur cost without the agreement of the developer, I think you're on shaky ground. So let me give you an example. An example of, say, Isaiah 61. The request from the abutter was, I want a 6-foot vinyl fence. We immediately turned to the applicant and said, you okay doing that? They said yes. It's not you deciding that, it's the abutter and the applicant deciding that's acceptable to me. Yes, I'm willing to incur that expense. That dialogue has not occurred here.
But you're suggesting to us that there's costs associated in this request. the cost is either going to be theirs or his. Correct? And if he wants his house washed and his driveway paved and they say no, he's got to do that or live with it. Doubtful he's going to live with it. He's probably going to pay for it.
I think that's a reasonable assumption, yes, but I think there have been, I think in all of our lives, we know of people who say, well, I'll take the money and I'll do that, but they don't, you know. Or
So,
they don't take the money and it still
last
doesn't get
question,
done.
Madam Chair. If what you're suggesting is there should be negotiations between the developer and the landowner, should we tonight say, let's wait a while and give them a chance to negotiate this out and see where we stand? Is that,
That's what I was gonna ask.
That is one way to handle that, yes.
thank you.
I just have another question. So if I'm understanding this right, so the landscaping is already in the plan. He said that the lighting is already in the plan and the fence is already in the plan. So it's just the driveway, power wash and foundation, which occurred after construction
We
or
don't know.
not?
It has been asserted that there were problems in the foundation because of this activity.
Right, so
I
but
don't think that we don't have proof of that, and I
right,
don't,
no, that, yeah, I understand that.
and I
I'm
don't
just-
believe that the
the other
developer
three
has had
things-
an opportunity to
Right,
do their due diligence from their end.
but half of these things are already in the plan. Is that's what I'm trying to understand. So the fence.
I
by
would
the-
say if there is a necessity for remediation of the foundation, because the survey last year didn't show any cracks and now there are cracks.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's what's going to occur or not, but if that is the case, then yes, I think the assertion that was made by Mr. Brunette that there's probably insurance to handle that is probably a true statement.
Mhm.
It may not be a true statement, but it probably is.
Okay.
I think we're really looking at house washing, pavement. Those are not things that would be normal conditions
For us to,
for the board to impose on an abutters property or for an applicant to pay, for an applicant to pay on an abutters property.
Okay.
If they want to do that, and so negotiating that certainly is.
How many projects do we have though that create that kind of, have we had recently that create that kind of, covering of a house or whatever? I mean, look,
I think.
I'm hoping we can find a
I think
negotiating.
I think there is a lesson for the board here, for all members, that when we approve a major project, there is significant repercussion to the immediate neighbors. And it is usually short-lived. In this case, it's over a year, but it's going to end at some point in time. But I think that's true of other major projects that we've had in the city, that if you live right next door to it, that you have dust and you have noise and you have crime. And I'm not aware of the city being involved in rectifying those issues.
Up till now.
So how does the board feel about tabling it to see if the applicant and the abutter can talk?
I'd make that motion.
Can I ask a question first, Madam Vice Chair? If we decide to table this, what repercussions does it have on the project? Is it a cease and desist? All hammers stop until next month?
No.
I think they just keep on rolling until
Right, and
That's
if that's
right.
the case,
I
then
think so.
fine, but if it's that, hey, we're holding everyone in limbo so they can negotiate,
I agree.
no, I
then
don't.
it has additional monetary.
I don't think that.
Can I just make a comment, Madam Chair? I'm waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we table it, I don't know if it's necessary. I think the abutter and the developer can be working on a negotiated plan. And if the abutter is not satisfied, he's already said he's going to go to litigation, and that's going to happen one way or the other. So why delay it? Why put it on?
Well,
the
let's see
table?
if.
The only
delaying
thing
it
I would remind
causes
you
it.
is this started when they put in a wall that he objected to and that our director said was not a structure. And I don't fault him for that. I
don't
wouldn't
either.
have thought it was
My
a structure.
understanding, and I could be wrong, from what I understood from some of the comments, the abutter had an opportunity to bring some of these things up at certain points and did not. You didn't catch that?
I didn't
No,
catch
I
that.
Okay, I thought I heard that statement more than once.
You checked.
So to answer your question, there is no, if you table this, there is no repercussion to the property owner / developer. I am not going to issue any cease and desist or anything like that. Okay.
Good.
And it does not affect Mr. Brunette's ability to pursue any appeal or legal process that he wants to do, because you have not made a decision yet. That period of time would not start until you make a decision, which is presumably at the June meeting, but could be whenever.
We have a motion and I believe a second.
I'll second that.
You second, okay.
I like to discuss it though. We can have some discussion on it.
Thanks.
Or did Bruce make the motion?
No, he made the motion. I seconded it.
Okay.
I just wanted to have some discussion before we voted. on
We don't want any discussion.
it. So I'm only going to say this, and I know the project manager, Tim, I've worked with him, and he's a very reasonable, understanding guy. And I would think maybe the paving might be the issue that they butt heads on, but I would think most of this stuff that Peter has asked for mitigation on, they more than likely can work out. Does that mean we still have to put it in writing? I don't know. But if they can work out some sort of agreement on this stuff and everybody's comfortable with it, there's no reason why if they come back to the next meeting and it's okay, this is all cool, whatever, and then we can just proceed on that. Certainly, it's not the planning boards. I'm not speaking for everybody, but I sure wouldn't want to have projects going ahead that are gonna, like Dean said, potentially cause harm to neighbors with these big projects. And I would agree with him. I'm not so sure the board has been careful to point out a lot of these potentials. I think of the big one, they got a cemetery for a neighbor, so nobody complains there. But I just think that's a good reason if we can keep this going for another month. Probably good will come out of it, more than likely, I would hope.
So,
Based on some comments, I think I've had assurances that the project can continue moving forward without delay, without interruption. If that be the case, then I would be comfortable putting it on the table until our next meeting to allow the developer and the abutter to perhaps come up with some sort of negotiated, something that everyone's agreeable to.
so all those,
I just want to say one last thing. We've kind of made it clear, a bunch of different people talking about the landscaping, the fence around the dumpsters and the downcast lighting is pretty much part of it. So those are non-discussion points anymore. The other points, driveway repair and foundation repair, those 2 points. Even if we table it, we can't make a decision on those next month unless we have documentation in front of us that says processes during this construction caused this damage. Otherwise, we'll be tabling it again till we get that information.
Very good, Brad.
Because if someone has a 170-year-old house, I can just imagine in my head what their driveway looked like 2 years ago, unless it was redone. And then if some,
Information then. as
Site
part of the-
I
well-
still think that's a court
Don't
issue,
forget the
though.
washing of the house.
and then that's a court issue. The washing of the house, I hope it goes through because maybe it will set a precedence.
Yep.
I live across the street from the waterworks. They're constantly dumping stuff when they do road work over there and scooping it up. It's basically a storage lot for fill. And it's constantly creating dust. They can come wash my house every year. It's been going on for 14 years since I've been there. It'll keep going for 14 years after I'm gone.
Did you ever approach him?
So, yeah, I have to approach them and it's like pulling teeth for them to cut the grass over there and stuff back so the kids can use the sidewalks and everything. But anyway, I hope that gets approved. But I mean, really, the other two things, the large ticket items here, we can't make a decision on. We shouldn't have to, first of all. Everything on this should be between the developer and the abutter. But if we have to, we can't decide either way unless we have paperwork proving that it was done, the damage was done because of this construction.
And if I could just add, he may well be right. I'm not sure I'd argue the point. But maybe if we give them a month, they can negotiate.
Yes.
Right, that's
and-
what I
And
was
get
saying.
something done. You know, if he has to go to court to do things that he's talking about, okay, but let's give him 30 days to
Yeah.
try to hammer it out.
I have a great confidence that Bonnet Page and Stone, who has been doing incredible projects around not only the city, but the state, will work hard to address all the concerns with the neighbor to the best of everybody's ability to make it work. It's just a win-win situation all around.
So can I remind everybody that the motion was to table until the next meeting? And can I ask all those in favor? And we are unanimous. Thank you.
Work it out.
Thank you.
Time to negotiate, not that they just come back in a month and they haven't talked.
Well, that's,
That tabling was implied time for them to negotiate, not that they come back next month and they haven't talked.
I suspect Bonnet Page and Stone will be right on this. They have a very good PR department, so they want to mitigate any negative stuff out
I
there.
think he's meandering his way. I'm gonna assume that our chair is
You're
making
hoping.
his way back.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, excellent. So I don't even need to try and fake it.
No, you can't go.
Call the next thing.
Okay, so next up, I believe. So I thought I read that 244 Province
Is this yours?
is delayed. Is that true or?
Here.
No, okay, so thank you.
Oh,
So next up
You're
is
missing
PL
one.
2021
that's my-
0146 SP 244 Province Street, The Villages. Proposal for 3 apartment buildings to house 90 units.
my stuff was here.
This is just what we, some people see this better than,
Just the one.
I get back.
Yeah.
So give them the colors.
Oh, I like the color scheme.
I'm not gonna get a drink.
God, we need this project.
Yes, see?
I did not get one. I have the regular plans. I don't have the colors.
This is from-
Oh, no, I did.
We didn't get the province stuff, the villages from.
You
last
took
month.
two.
No, you
I have
don't.
two copies.
Here's one back. I did have.
Two greens in there?
I think, yes, I do. There's another one right there.
Okay, beautiful.
Right in time, go home.
Yeah, the- go straight.
Louis, did you get one of these? One of the color ones? Here.
I got it.
Right, he's got an extra. There you go.
Okay,
It's
so
over,
I've got you on
it cuts
the.
over by the four
Which one
lane
is?
heading towards
Got you
Gilbert
on the
Block.
side.
No, that's fine.
That's all I need.
Okay.
I could find my way to. link.
It should be this one.
Right where your finger is.
Except this
Right
one.
here.
Right there.
Yes, okay, this is the Gilbert one, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Landlocked except for that.
Good evening. My name is Attorney Phil Brouillard. I'm here representing Phil Gilbert and Block Company. To my right is Brian Gilbert and John Roki, our engineer. We're here to present to you tonight a very exciting proposal for 90 market rent apartments in 3 30-unit buildings. We've been working on this project for about 2 years. Basically, the purpose of this plan and the plans and why we're here is to show the layout and design for a 90-unit residential multifamily project, and associated drainage, grading, parking, landscaping, and utilities. Basically, we have provided you with a color copy, which is an overview of the entire project. But I was hoping maybe you could direct your attention to some of the photos we've provided and the history of this property, and express to you our humble opinion that this is a wonderful site for this development, in that it's bounded by a cemetery, city land, a power line, and is a really good use of a former gravel pit. It's been in the Gilbert family for over 50 years. So I'd like to have Brian Gilbert speak to you a little bit about what this property was, and then John and I will talk to you about what we'd like it to become to be.
Well, more than 50 years ago, it was a piece of property that was owned by my father's cousin, Gerard Gilbert. He's been gone quite a while. You probably remember Gerard Gilbert.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
I was just a young.
Yeah, me too. So one day I was in the Block-Yard office and I was probably about 12 years old. And this guy from the city comes into the office. My father recognized him, but I was 12, so I had no idea who he was. And what do you want? And he says, well, I'm here to buy your pit down the road so we can turn it into a landfill. And my father knew exactly what he was talking about. He also knew that his cousin owned the property, not him. So my father told the guy from the city, I got one thing to take care of, and I'll be right with you. And he went out the back door, hopped in his pickup truck, went over to his cousin's house and bought the property so that it would not be turned into a dump. We already had 2 dumps, up by Reed's junkyard. We had those. We didn't want another one.
And then could you tell them what you used it for over the years
Oh,
and how you reclaimed it?
Yeah, well, I mean, over the years, we used it for storage of our materials. I mean, the precast concrete products that we make and some concrete block. And and we got done doing that. We ended up with, back at the Block-Yard, we bought that, the 18 acres across the street. We purchased that from the city of Laconia. And so that gave us, an awful lot of room there. So we didn't ever have to put any more of our inventory down by the cemetery. And so with that said, projects like, let's see, Walmart, Marine Patrol, Memorial Middle School, Laconia High School, the football practice, the field, all of those things had excess aggregate. And it was all trucked to this piece of property to fill it back up because, you know, it was a dugout hole in the ground. And we just, you know, these people hauled it in and they bulldozed it flat and we got what we got today.
And they only took good quality fill. They didn't take junk and roots and crap.
Yeah, there was no, well, I don't know about organic, there was certainly no stumps or anything like that.
So this project is 10.3 acres. It's nicely fit into the city land. It's going to have an outlet on Growth Road and Province Street, so Province Street won't be overloaded. We have gotten a special exception for an apartment complex, and we've gotten a variance to be able to have 90 units there. The parcel will be served by municipal water and sewer and natural gas. The property is completely located outside the 100-year floodplain. And remarkably, I think the board would be really happy about this after the previous discussion of green space. After all these buildings are done and after all the roads are in, we have a total of 72% green space. And we back up to the woods, and basically nobody's going to be able to even see this thing. And I don't have to tell you folks about, these are market rent apartments. These are apartments that are sorely needed in the city of Laconia. And the parking calculations, we require 135 spaces. We have 144 plus 6 handicap. We have snow storage areas that are shown on the plans on sheet 10. Those of you that are interested in that. Trash and recycling is going to be handled by an outside vendor. It's not going to be on the city to do that. And all the interior proposed roads will remain private. The buildings will be sprinkled. And we're very excited about this location. We're very excited about these units. There's 3 30-unit buildings. Highest, the height is 35 to 40 feet. And basically, we have an access road coming in from Province Street, and we have an access road in and out of Growth Road. We're going to be getting an easement from the city of Laconia for that. And there's going to be an underground water line and from Growth Road, because there's higher water pressure with the new pipe over in Growth Road. The property has a very nice courtyard in the middle of it with a gazebo, and it's gonna have a sense of a little community in there. And the buildings are nicely spaced around the courtyard. And we have oversized detention ponds, and it being a former pit, the drainage and the soils are very good. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to John Roque so that he can review the plans with you. And if you have any questions of either me, Mr. Gilbert, or John, when he's done, we'd be more than pleased to answer.
Good evening, John Roque, Roque Consulting. We started on this project in order to go to the ZBA, and we have all municipal utilities, the drainage, the water and sewer come down to Province Street. But as we went through the process, we had originally wanted to go out to Hounslow, but it ended up being we had an opportunity to go out to Growth Road. So that was kind of a progression of the plan, and it worked out really good because there's a lot better water pressure on Growth Road, as Phil mentioned. That was something the water department wanted to make sure we did a actual loop all the way through. It's going to help their water system out by being able to push the water around a little bit better too. Like Phil said, by having two access points, we need two access points because of the fire requirement for anything over 49 units. We need 2 points of access. And the access point out to Growth Road ends up working out really well. We took into account the dog park that's already out on city land, and we're going to essentially change their access point. Yeah, like right now, it goes out almost right in the same spot where we are going to have our road. So we're gonna relocate the entrance into the dog park off of there. And we actually have sidewalk that goes all the way out there too. So if
People that
people,
live here will be able to walk out to the
Yep.
dog park.
Yep.
Can you outline that again for me real quick? I missed it.
what's that?
Where you were talking about changing the entry to the.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. yeah.
Here, I can zoom in even
Just
more.
reiterate that for me if you would. Went by a little fast.
Okay, so right now, the dog park entrance comes in right at this spot. And it goes down below here, and the dog park sits like right in this area.
Right.
So instead of we basically have two entrances right on Growth Road. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pave our road, put our road in with the sidewalk. And then right here is gonna be reline the new entrance onto the road. So this will be where it takes
Oh,
off.
I see. So
Be
the,
a safe 90-degree intersection with a stop sign.
so the new dog park entrance will actually be part of your access.
It'll
road then.
be located on our access road instead of on Growth Road the way it is
City
right now.
property.
And of course, that would be maintained in the winter.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
John?
Yes.
You said you're gonna have sidewalks on the access road that connects up to Growth Road?
Yes.
Are there sidewalks on Growth Road?
There are no sidewalks on Growth Road.
But
What
we are-
about Province Street?
We are asking for a driveway waiver on the
Sidewalk
sidewalks.
waiver.
Sidewalk
Province
waiver.
Street,
On Province Street.
because there's no connecting sidewalks and we're building the sidewalk down. We've got internal sidewalks and we're building a sidewalk down to Grove Road.
Yeah, on Province Street, we have very limited frontage and there's no sidewalk at all on Province Street
Yeah,
to go to.
so the problem is Province Street desperately needs a sidewalk.
Yeah.
There isn't one from, I think, is it Peter Court? No, it's further back. I mean, I'm looking at it right now.
It does go up. Almost there.
Boynton Court. At some point, there is a sidewalk on at least one side of the street.
That's true.
It's on the left, just past Edwards.
Let me go back to Street View. I think
I think
it's
it's
someone,
almost 3/4 of a mile.
Well, in the same way on Growth and Hounslow, there's not a sidewalk, but
Right.
there is a walking lane where the white line is wider
Yeah.
on this side of the
We
road where
think
this
that if we
development
were
is
to
going.
cut- If you were to weigh it, where we're putting the sidewalk on Growth Road, that sidewalk has the potential of giving access to those walkways that was just specified,
Yep.
as well as the dog walking facility. And there's nobody that's gonna walk out to the entrance and then there's nowhere to go. They just
Right.
Get dumped out onto the road. And that's a twisty and narrow road, and I don't know what would be the safest place to walk on that road.
that stretch of Province Street, it was once Province Road,
It's
as
just
you probably
unsafe
know.
to put even some people out.
No, the city needs to do something, is what I'm getting at.
Because that would make a really nice walkway right to Vista. It would give people who don't have vehicles.
Well, we
We'll
obviously,
be paying taxes for a lot of years, and if the city wants to use some of that tax money, they can build some sidewalks.
Yeah, it's about 3/10 of a mile.
yep,
That's the distance. There's where the sidewalk ends and there's where the entrance will be.
And we're,
How much
where,
of that
where
is
is
your
this,
property?
where's the
John?
sidewalk in John, on Province?
Sidewalk ends at Boynton Court.
Boynton Court, okay.
How
So,
much of that property would, if you had to put a sidewalk in, what would be the length of that sidewalk?
The
less
length
than
of,
100 feet.
the length of our sidewalk, less than 100 feet.
yeah, because they've only got,
Quite a bit less because we have our entrance is a big chunk of that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not a huge amount.
Oh, no, it wouldn't be at all. Here, let me bring this back up.
but you're gonna have
We're gonna have
internal
drainage,
sidewalk.
Drainage there and everything too, so it would narrow the road.
Yeah, part of our drainage design the way we have it put together is we outlet our detention pond and we're actually forming a good ditch along the edge of Province Street, sorry.
So I see.
And there's an existing culvert right up in this area. So we're actually outletting our detention pond into a ditch that we're forming into a existing culvert.
And keep
right
in
across
mind,
from
we
the
are
street.
building a sidewalk and we're building it bordering city property. So we're building sidewalk.
So
A lot more.
Yeah, we're
than-
building a lot of sidewalk.
I understand that. I just wanted to follow up on this
And
because
not only that, but we're also building an access road for the city to their. to-
I've sat on capital improvements plan committee for how many years, and every time the planning, the public works director stands at that podium, he says, I don't have enough money to repair the streets and you want sidewalks? But I mean, Province Street was crying for it. And as the vice chair points out, if we're gonna be putting 90 units in there of affordable housing, I think a sidewalk is something the city needs to look at. You wouldn't have any trouble tying into it if you had to, right? After the fact.
Oh,
All right.
And then the other
No.
thing, is, we also are here for the site plan approval, the sidewalk waiver. And also we have a CUP for the wetlands buffer, John, and maybe you could tell the board.
Yeah,
Wait,
the only thing we need the CUP for is, there's actually a vernal pool off-site from our project. Located on the city of Laconia property. And what happens is the 100-foot setback is right here, like it touches this building. And we did go to the Conservation Commission, we did a presentation to them. And I believe you have a recommendation in your file that they support the CUP.
We have a little pink note to that effect.
And we're gonna put like a split rail fence along the backside of it. There'll be like plaques saying, don't disturb this area or don't go out into this area. And actually, the way the grading works, there's like a little swale there and it's kind of a natural buffer that we're gonna keep in place. And it's all treed right now as it exists, so.
Okay, thanks, John. Charlie?
John, you mentioned that ditch that is gonna go into, it's going where?
Down on Province Street.
Yeah, so
Okay, yep.
you're gonna put a ditch there that's not there now?
No, it's there.
Oh, the ditch is there now.
It's not very well formed though. It's basically, over the years, it's been just plowed, all the dirt and sand or whatever's been plowed to the edge and there's not really anything there.
Is that city property?
Yes, right away.
All right, so but you're gonna improve on that ditch, or
Correct.
then will you be responsible for the upkeep of that ditch, or would that go back to the
That would
city?
be- The city would have just a better ditch to,
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's a reformed ditch. Only to a
Orthodox
certain
line.
point where it starts backing up their pond at the bottom and then they'll have to do something.
John, I got a question. With this being overburden off other construction sites, is there any concern with structural to build on this? Have you guys done any geo bores?
there will be.
Okay.
They will, as part of the building permit process, we'll definitely need a foundation design.
Okay,
And the geotech goes out there and does we stake out where the buildings are and they do a boring analysis and they design the foundation specifically for it.
So, and I saw on the one thing, there are some test pits already marked. Were
Yep.
those checked for contamination? Or were
No, the
those
test
just?
pit, showing, Luke Powell actually did our soil survey. So he did some test pits out there to begin with. And then for our AOT process, we need to do test pits in each of the detention ponds as part of the design process.
For contamination
No.
too, or?
No, it's mostly just for the characteristics of the soil for drainage design,
Permeability.
permeability, yeah.
Right, but normally whenever you're developing a spot that has been filled, it's kind of due diligence to check for contamination in that fill.
No, I didn't let anything, it came from Marine Patrol, Laconia High School, Memorial Middle School.
It was hand selected.
Yeah, I mean,
I think unless
Having a phase one environmental done.
unless the developer is aware of
Right, yeah,
contamination.
if you're having a phase one, they'll see if there's something that needs to be further investigated.
So that's,
If they start excavating and they find evidence of contamination, they have to notify DES, and then everything comes to a halt,
So
so.
Brian put it in there and pushed it around, so I don't think
Yeah.
they're gonna find a problem with that.
So when you're down on Province Street, like you're basically, if you think about looking up this road, we're preserving trees on both sides. But it's deceiving, but from Province Street to this first intersection right here, it's 26 feet higher. So when you drive by on Province Street, you're gonna be looking up a road and you're gonna see, you might see the tops of some units up on top of the hill. But the trees are gonna be pretty narrow on the way up there, and it's quite a bit higher. So this is gonna be kind of self-contained out in the back, and driving by, you'll know it's there, but that's about it.
You done? Yep. We did have a traffic study done by Steve Furlong, and he concluded that the Hounslow Avenue Growth Road intersection is underutilized, and that all applicable turning movements will operate well below capacity through the horizon year 2033. He also said that the results of his analysis for South Main Street, Hounslow Avenue, Province Street, Province Road intersection, and the Province Street proposed site access showed intersections are the same finding, that they operate well below capacity. He also said that the site distances for the entrance on Province Street is excellent. It's almost 400 feet. And those have been reviewed by the staff. And we have reviewed the staff report. And we concur with all the recommendations made by staff. And I don't know if you want me to run through those, but they wanted a split rail fence to delineate the outer limits of the maintained wetland buffers. The easement with the city of Laconia is for the access road. An easement with Eversource is a joint use agreement to pass under their and then we're providing additional traffic data. Steve Pernot is for the Public Works Department, and we're changing the lot number. The Public Works wanted a grinder station, process sewer flow prior to entering the city system. We're going to provide further detail for the drainage ditch that we discussed on Province Road and a cross section of the driveway entrance. We follow the Laconia Water Works conditions that we're recommending the water come from Growth Road. That gives better fire flow protection for the sprinkler systems. And we approve, we review and concur with the recommendations in the staff report. And if there's any questions of myself or John or Brian or anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to discuss, we're more than happy to help.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Peter is running.
Oh, thank you.
I respond,
It's been a long meeting.
I respond to Madam Chairman. I'm very open-minded about.
If I
some
may
stuff.
ask the applicant a question.
Certainly.
Phil, you mentioned traffic study. That Province Road, and this may be more of a city issue than a developer's issue, but it's a narrow road. It's currently posted, it says not a through street. Well, how's that going to work out now that we have a development there with people in and out, and
Well,
they're going to continue to try to restrict?
I anticipated that somebody might have a question of that, and the traffic consultant did as well. And I want you to know what he said about that, which may exactly answer your question.
I can tell you what sparked that.
What was that?
My daughter was crossing Province Road down by Edward Street. I live on Edward Street. She got hit by a pickup truck.
Okay, that happens on lots of streets, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, she's.
But I know it is a narrow road, and it
Yeah.
doesn't have a lot of very much shoulder and.
And that sign went up, I believe, around the time that they built that sharp left-hand turn and the extension out. So they rerouted 107, in other words. That used to be
Isn't
107.
it like a neighborhood watch sign? Isn't it? It says neighborhood watch on it. Okay, that was a meeting that we had in I don't know if it was my backyard with the whole neighbor. I mean, there was a point in time, you know, when we had all those Christmas lights.
Yeah.
Pretty tight neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we had the police there and we all said, hey, that neighborhood watch, that's a great idea. And that's what made those signs go up.
Was your daughter okay?
Yeah.
On page 15 of the traffic report, Steve says that the greatest net impact in terms of roadway volumes will occur along the section of Province Street west of the proposed site access road. Increases of plus 29 vehicles are expected during the PM peak hour period, or plus 20%. To put this increase into perspective, the 5-day NHDOT traffic count on Province Street shows that normal variations in random traffic flow from one weekday to the next accounts for changes of up to 21%. So the traffic on Province Street fluctuates a lot. So he didn't think that this was significant, and it is 29 more cars. So it's not 29 more cars going from there to the other intersection.
Did he mention anything about maintaining it as not a through street to help restrict additional traffic through that way?
Well, we discussed this. DPW doesn't want to do that. And they didn't have any issues or bring up anything about that particular intersection or that section of road, did they, John?
Enough I know, but
Yeah.
that was more Steve going directly with them though.
Okay.
So A, the sign is one of those feel-good signs.
Yeah, recommend
that. Cover your ears, Bruce. The city council votes to put up from time to time to address constituents who are concerned.
Or a council member.
Council member, right. It is not enforceable.
I can attest to the fact that I actually did get pulled over for using it as a through street once. I will say that. But I can give you a little more history, and Mr. Gilbert will back me up on this. When the bypass was built, there was a compromise made because there was no, they didn't tie there's only it's not a full intersection. It's not a full interchange with 107. So that's why they didn't want people to avoid the dog leg, go back out to join up with 106. There was supposed to be, at some point, the state was going to eliminate that so that you could, if you were, let's see, northbound on 311, you could actually exit directly to 107 and then never followed through on it. That's how far back that sign goes, I'm pretty sure.
I think you're probably right, but it is not enforceable from a,
I'll quote the cop the next time he pulls me
yeah,
over.
well, he didn't take you to court on it, did he?
Well, no, I talked my way out of it.
Yeah. The second issue that you brought up, Scott, all of the people who will live in this apartment complex now become local residents. They're not through traffic, they live there, the
Right.
same as everybody else. So therefore, they're not
passing through, yeah.
enforceable or not, they're not passing through, right? They're
Like
going
a
to and
house with a
from.
driveway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If I might just, Dean, I wish to check a little more, because my recollection is, because I was the chief at the time, that was passed by the city council as a matter of ordinance. So we might, and we might want to. But I wouldn't want to encourage people to take a chance that it's not enforceable, and find out it is.
Well, right, Bruce, but it was because they didn't want people to continue to go straight like they used to.
I understand, and the residents down there may still feel that way.
But we can bring the state in, that the intersection up at the Weirs, I famously referred to as dysfunction junction once, you might recall. This little intersection of 107, Hounslow Avenue, Province Street, that's completely confusing.
Suicide
Remarkably,
junction.
though, there's only been like 7 accidents in 3 years.
How many years?
3.
That's pretty significant, actually.
Well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's a
well,
lot.
It sounds
For a
significant, but
street
when
that
you
gets no
consider
traffic.
all the traffic that's there.
Yeah,
And it's a pilot error intersection. It's just
Absolutely.
rife with pilot error. If
I-
any one person makes the wrong move, not having a good day, it's all over.
I
Well,
agree.
107 is a state highway there.
And there's nothing you can do
So they,
about
no,
that.
no. So this would be a good idea to have them put a rotary. there.
That's what I'm talking about. So this is a good opportunity for the state to be approached about fulfilling a long made promise that they were going to straighten that out. That was supposed to be temporary, is what I'm getting at.
They'll put it on.
Do you happen to have the days and times that the traffic study was done?
It was done and then redone
That's the
because it was
refrigeration
done
unit
when Mr. Perno didn't
in
know
the
about the
cooler.
closure of the bridge. So it was redone.
Bike week.
Tuesday, December 7th, 2021, and Saturday, December 4th, 2021. The counts were conducted simultaneously from 7 to 9 a.m. and from 3 to 6 p.m. on Tuesday, and from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday.
Thank you, Phil. Any other questions for
Yes,
the?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Scott.
I do have.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I don't think it's actually.
90 units, I envision, market rate, I envision young families perhaps inhabiting this project, this development. I see there's a gazebo in the plan. Is there any plan to have any kind of playground equipment or anything like that to encourage, the little ones to play there and not out on Providence Road or?
There's only, in these buildings, there's only 2 3-bedroom units on each floor. Most of them are 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom units.
So the majority are 1-bedroom.
Yeah, well,
So,
no, mostly 2-bedroom,
Mostly
but
two-bedroom.
then there's like 2 3-bedroom and 2 2-bedroom on each level.
okay.
So I deal with other developers that do a lot of apartments, and when it's down to 2-bedroom, you can get families, but it's not generally big families. But it's usually temporary, like they're transitioning from somewhere going somewhere. They don't, bigger families don't live long-term in a 2-bedroom.
So you're not
It is-
seeing any need for any recreational.
We're
Playground
doing,
type.
the interior sidewalks, we're doing the sidewalk over to the dog park, we're doing the big, the big open area in the center. I mean, if you kick a soccer ball around, we have a gazebo, that say, let everybody gather and do picnics or barbecues or whatever, so. We're trying to do it with open space essentially as our.
That area That's the corner of the cemetery and where our property meets the cemetery. That's like 40 acres of city property that's all, trees and walking trails.
Does that include the dog park as well?
Yes.
Yeah, the dog park is on
that
there.
parcel.
On that
Yeah.
parcel, and that's actually city owned.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
I live at the bottom of that, so I walk up through there all the time.
You envision any impacts on the dog park?
Probably,
more dogs.
probably these folks will see the dog park and want to walk the dog.
My wife brings our dog there.
So if there's, I think, other questions, we'll answer it, or we maybe.
Mike?
Yeah.
Bill, I'm on the zoning board and we approved the increased density.
Yes.
There's a lot of opposition from Providence Road people, and I promised that they wouldn't even know the apartments were there. If we put in a curvy driveway leading up there, they wouldn't be able to see the apartments.
Well, we did put in a curvy driveway, so John,
You can only curve so much. I mean,
That's a
it's-
pretty
it's
wide
narrow.
entrance you have there, 90 feet, isn't it?
They won't be able to see the buildings for it.
That's just my concern was, I promised we would have a curve with some trees there, so
well, there will be trees along the whole entire driveway, and it does curve, so remember, unless you either stop your car and look up, or you walk by and you stare at it, if you're driving by in your car, hopefully looking at the road, it's going to be a very
Just change in elevation there too.
quick view. And the fact of it is, if you look at your plan, it is a pretty good run from Province Street up to that first intersection. And there's a 26-foot height differential. So when you're at the road down here, you're just going to be really looking at the road unless you look up, because it's 26 feet further up. So as you go up, as you go down that road, you're going up. So not only are you curving a little bit, but you're going up. So I think that that is a situation that it's going to be very difficult for anyone to see anything.
Something from here?
The first intersection is 600 feet in from Province.
I mean, most people can't see 600 feet.
I
Well, no,
don't
I mean,
think can, but-
seriously. No, I mean, that's a long way.
I just,
Yeah, I mean, if you're driving down the road and you look off to the side, 600 feet away is.
and where's the gazebo on the plan there? I don't really.
Right in the center.
Right in the middle,
Yeah, right in the
a little
center.
Little
brown,
box there, okay.
brown box.
The little brown box.
John, is there fire hydrants in the property?
What?
Fire hydrants in the property?
Yes, there are fire
I
hydrants.
just can't see them on the map.
Yeah, this is just the presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, no, that's fine. I'm not worried about the exact location.
Yeah, no, we've been working with Charlie and
Okay.
Ben on everything.
All right.
There's definitely fire hydrants throughout.
So looking at the building that's encroaching on the wetland, what,
Not the wetland, just.
The
it's
buffer.
100
The buffer.
it's
The buffer,
and it's the
it's-
100-foot buffer from.
Right.
a vernal pool.
so then you've got your vernal pool.
Yep.
And then what is beyond that?
The dog park,
Dog.
right on the other side.
Well,
Gotcha.
no, this, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like literally right here is the drainage canal and the detention ponds for the dog park, which are actually closer to, yeah, the drainage ponds go a little bit into the buffer also, but then the dog park runs right along this area here. Actually,
And that's where that split rail fence is gonna go, right?
Gonna have to remove some transient people from up there.
No, it's not gonna go close enough.
On the other side of the dog park.
Yeah, no,
from
so-
yeah,
the-
so
right
here,
along
if you
that
look at,
side.
They're in my backyard.
if you look at it this way. Like this right here is where the building is. And right here is the existing entrance to the gravel parking area and the dog park fence. ATV trails, there's all kinds of stuff. The ATV trails run almost right up to.
Can
the-
you guys see
up to
that
the,
cursor? I can't see it. Must be.
Vernal pool area.
He goes fast.
Working.
Charlie.
Okay, so it kind of blocks access to the ATV trails.
Yeah, in theory, like this ATV
Third
trail
one
would go
felt
up
it.
onto this area.
And
There's
some
an ATV
woodpeckers.
trail right down the power line.
Red
Yeah,
Well, there'll be a
pileated
road there.
woodpeckers.
right.
He's delaying the meeting.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, sensing none, we open the public hearing at 9:20. Are there any abutters or members of the public here that would like to be heard? Any abutters or members of the public?
If nobody online that's indicated that they wish to speak for or against the application.
Did you say there isn't or there is?
There
Is not. All right, we'll close the public hearing at 9:20. And staff report, please.
So before I get to the staff report, a couple of housekeeping items. If it's okay with everyone, if there are no objections, I would like to amend the project description at the top of the page. To after the word infrastructure, do a comma and also wetland buffer conditional use permit. That is for the wetland buffer for the vernal pool. And then you'll need to take two votes tonight. The first one will be for the sidewalk waiver. Second one would be for the site plan.
I think. it was-
No, you can do that as part of the full approval. I also want to point out that according to the 2018 master plan, it does call for encouragement of all kinds of housing in the city, not just single-family housing, but apartments, et cetera. I will tell you that realistically speaking, within the city right now, we have effectively a 0% vacancy rate for apartments. The essential vacancy rate is a tenant moves out and hopefully the landlord does some painting or cleaning for a week, and then the new tenant moves in, and that's essentially the quote, the vacancy rate that we have in the city. If you know of anybody that's been trying to find an apartment in the city, it takes a long time.
And money.
And money to get an apartment. Having said that, staff recommendations are outlined to you. I want to have you pay particular attention to 2B. We will need to execute an easement with the city that will be at the city council level for the use of the land adjacent to the dog park that goes up to Growth Road. They will also need to get an easement from Eversource, but that is not for us. We have asked for some additional traffic data, and they are in the process of providing that. It is not data that affects, in our mind, approval of the project, but rather it is additional information that we would like to have about the intersection of Province Street and Main Street and that area there. The city recognizes that we need to do something about that intersection, and we want to see how much time we have to figure out what we need to do there. So that traffic study will help us do that. Also 3A, Department of Public Works is requiring a grinder station to be installed on the sewer system. We already talked about the detail of the ditch. And as you may or may not be aware of, recently, the city is in the process, I don't know if we've passed it or not, but we're in the process of updating the sewer ordinance and to become within compliance of DES and other entities that will require private sewers to be inspected on a regular basis and maintained. And the applicant has agreed that that is part of their plan. And then we have the standard boilerplate, you know, get all your permits and have everything lined up. Any questions?
I just have a comment based on the vice chair's comments earlier. It really does trouble me that there's no bike lane, no pedestrian walkway, no sidewalk between this development and downtown. You have to think about school children. You have to think about the increased foot traffic just from that development. There's going to be people, you know, there are 30 some odd people displaced in Lakeport over the last year or so that would be chomping at the bit to get an apartment like this. And these are people that many of them may not have a motor vehicle, may not have any safe way to get down there. We talk about these sidewalk waivers until we're blue in the face. It's not fair. I understand to put that onus on each developer, especially whereas here, they only have a short bit of frontage on the street. But, you know, it would be nice if this board and the planning department were to make a proposal to the city council, perhaps, that for every 100 feet of sidewalk we require a developer to put in, that the city would match it or something. There needs to be a study, at least, of that last stretch of Province Street, because it's hilly, it's curvy, there's vegetation in many places, not anywhere near this site, but right close to the road. And when you come up over that hill and around the corner, there's probably more than a few cars that go greater than the speed. And we're going to be increasing foot traffic if we approve this. There's no question about that. And there's no place for them to walk but in the road. So is that something you think the planning department could get behind, is putting a little bit of pressure on Public Works maybe to go along with an idea and the city council to appropriate some money every year for the extension of our sidewalk infrastructure.
Peter, I thought we had already done that to the city council like 3 years ago. We had pushed that, what you just said exactly.
Yeah.
To them to do something, and I don't think anything was ever taken up.
Well, because that's the way the budget gets done. And if there's nobody in the room actually jumping up and down going sidewalks, sidewalks,
But I
it's
also
pretty
thought-
easy to just cross the line through it.
But I also thought it was about granting waivers or not granting waivers.
It is, and it keeps, it's a perennial issue. All I'm saying is this particular development underscores the necessity for the city to take a look at pedestrian and bicycle traffic on this stretch of Province Street. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and they should incorporate that into the traffic study they're gonna look at to try and fix where Province connects with Main Street.
Yes.
That should probably be part of that whole thing, the pedestrian and the auto traffic.
See, because another way of looking at it is that this is an extension of downtown. I mean, this isn't just infill development. This is a pretty good sized development. And developers would be able to know that if they're required to build, quote, a sidewalk to nowhere, that the city is at least going to be able to add to that, and it's going to be a net gain to the city as well.
So does staff recommend that?
Well, it's,
The waiver. Do you recommend that we waive the sidewalk or not?
In this case, yes.
and again, in this case, I would have to agree with staff, because what's the point of building that 100 feet or whatever it
Not
is?
even 100 feet.
Not even 100 feet. Unless the city is willing to commit to their infrastructure improvements.
In fairness, let's understand that besides sidewalks, there's a few other things going on. Probably
I know.
everybody in this room wants their street improved.
I know.
There's 100 streets that haven't been approved yet or haven't been accepted yet that we're gonna have to, it just.
I know.
It's not because the city is going, oh, we don't give a damn about sidewalks. It's because we have priorities.
I just wanted to go on the record as saying that.
Listen, I think Dean will tell you, I raised this think about infrastructure, which this is part of.
Right.
All the time, I say we need to do something about, we have a quadrant of the city has no sewer, no water. And as a consequence, we have 2-acre zoning that prohibits any kind of real growth. And the city needs the growth. We're relying on the state school property to save us. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but everybody wants to talk about affordable housing up at the state school. And let's ask them if they're going to put in sidewalks up there. But the city will sit there and tell you, we just have too many priorities.
No, I'm just letting him know I got my hand up. That's all. He's looking at you.
And forgive my pontification here, but we're in the midst of arguing, I'm in the midst of arguing about this, inspection of sewers.
Right.
These people are going to pay sewer and water rates just like everybody else. But we want them to pay for the inspections that you folks get.
Right.
Because you're on a city street that's already developed. I'm not sure they should have to be responsible for those inspections. And I'm trying to get the city to say and I'll tell you where the problem arises, is a place like Southtown. Well, they want to live in a private community and we don't. But they're no different than the rest of us, except they got a gate before you get to their house.
Well, they should have a private fire department and then a public works
They don't.
department.
They pay the same taxes we do. They pay the same water rates, the same sewer rates. And we're saying, but you gotta, run the test through your line, your sewer, thank you.
Right.
When we're gonna do it for the vast majority of the city, why can't we just add these places in? Like this place, why can't we just add them in for inspection purposes? I'm not gonna shoot this thing down over sewer inspections, but I don't think it's appropriate that we should make that part of the requirement.
I'm not, I wasn't intent, my point was that, once again, we're looking at a particular development that would benefit from
I agree.
the infrastructure improvements that could only come from the city. not
But
put it on
the
them.
city wants to push it off.
Well, of
you know,
course. And in the meantime, we keep making
Nothing
sidewalk waivers
I
and
don't-
not doing anything to increase the sidewalk infrastructure. Charlie?
Didn't we have wasn't there a program, and Dean can maybe remember this, where if a developer didn't put the sidewalk in, money was taken then from that project and put somewhere else where a sidewalk was put in?
Yes.
And as staff has repeatedly responded, yes, there must have been some way to do that. There's a formula.
There was a
We'll look
way.
into it.
We did do it,
I don't know that it's being done.
but we did
Is
do
it
it at
being
one
done?
time.
Ed Bones did a study on it.
At one time, we did do that.
IPW would have to rate the sidewalks everywhere and come up with a
But
priority list.
They did do that, though. We did do that for one, at my early days on this, we were doing that.
The only one that I'm aware of is the apartments over here, the 55 plus or 63 plus apartments, whatever they are over here, across the street.
I remember that at the end.
Corner of, not Arch.
The problem with sidewalks is it's not just the
Anyway,
money to build them, but then you have to.
River's
money
Edge.
for sidewalks and stuff too.
We
But
did
the
it at the edge.
stipulation was the sidewalks had to be in the area.
Right, and that was done down by Shore Drive, or down there is where they had a development, and they put something in, and that's where the money was swapped out. Okay, I'm just saying.
Point well
Alright.
taken, Mr. Chairman. I will, not to beat a dead horse. We have had discussions, we did have discussions about sidewalks on Province Street. There are, not to make excuses, but there are some areas between this development and where the sidewalk currently ends, where there is a right of way, there's going to be right of way issues. You know, we don't have enough right of way, or it's in the wrong spot. The road is over here and the right of way is over there, or whatever. And then we also have some topology issues where the side of this, you know, is doing this, and when you get to the top of that berm, you're in somebody else's property, you know.
I
So
understand.
it's not as simple as, let's level out 5 feet and put some pavement down and do it. But the point is absolutely well taken about moving forward and creating a more pedestrian friendly.
We should be more proactive and not wait for another dead kid before we do some intersection improvements, so. Okay, are there any other questions for staff?
Comment, if I may, Mr. Chair?
Sure. One more.
And with all due respect to the staff recommendations and such, first of all, I totally support this development. I think it's a fantastic, I mean, there's no doubt we need affordable housing, market rate housing, whatever you want to call it. It's a great thing. Just generally, I'm opposed to sidewalk waivers. I think it's short-sighted, even though a sidewalk may be a sidewalk to nowhere. Now, later, as has been mentioned, the city could take action and tie in eventually. And so I just am generally going to oppose any sidewalk waivers. I don't have anything against this particular development as far as sidewalks go. I think the point made by the chair to have some pedestrian access from the development to downtown is something to be considered, but I will be voting against the sidewalk waiver.
So maybe we'll put on, for new business next month, we'll discuss whether it should be the policy of the planning board to deny all sidewalk waivers until the city does something. I mean, because otherwise listen, you got to understand, I was on this board 20 years ago and sidewalks to nowhere was an issue then. Nothing's been done. We can make policy, especially when the planning department isn't. So
I think this little section of Providence Street should have a sidewalk, and it will, when you have a little bit of sidewalk, it encourages more sidewalk.
Right. All right, is there anything else?
So I just want to say, I did go on the regulation website for Laconia, and they do have right there, sidewalks are an integral physical and social component of the city's landscape and infrastructure. They provide important linkage within the community and are essential to public safety. Then they want you to offer alternative transportation to be on the sidewalk, which in some cities, they do want the bikes off the sidewalks, but that's neither here nor there. But it's right there in the regulations. And there's even a waiver checklist
Yeah.
that we are supposed to be doing. By denying it, is it still consistent with the intent of the sidewalk requirement?
No, we haven't had waivers checklists submitted to this board for a few years now. But you're right, they are in the regulations. Anything else?
Lay down the tape.
So this has been accepted, right? This, we don't have to do a vote on that, right? It has been accepted, okay. So what we're looking at is a motion on PL 2021-0146 SP 244 Province Street, the villages at Province Street. They are seeking conditional approval or site plan approval this evening. Do we have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve, as we're at the approval process.
Just the approval. We'll have a separate vote on the waiver.
That we approve application PL 2021-0146 SP. That would be the proposal for 3 apartment building complexes with a total of 90 units with associated infrastructure to include a wetland buffer conditional use permit.
And all the standard conditions in the.
And all the other
report.
standard conditions.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams. There is second by Mr. Cheney. Any further discussion on this? This is the approval now. Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? All right, now the sidewalk waiver. Who wants to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that we deny the sidewalk waiver for Providence Street.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to deny the sidewalk waiver and a second. Any further discussion on that issue? All those in favor of denying the sidewalk waiver?
Were you putting your hand up when you were your
Opposed?
glasses?
All right, keep them up till she can count.
Roll call. Denial.
And opposed? So we have 7-2. It looks like the sidewalk waiver's been denied. All right, moving right along. PL 2022-0043 SP 59 Clinton Street. Proposal to construct a artist craftsman studio and associated, should be associated parking, I think. 59.
And if I may, Miss Jenna had to leave. I don't think she's coming back. Can we invite Louis to join us? It was
Sure.
an alternate.
Great idea.
In the midst of the action here.
Yeah, you get your own iPad and everything.
But only one of you guys can be
But
voting,
he can
right?
still comment.
No. We consider.
Can't vote by this.
Right, but
But he can comment from the gallery.
Only one of those two.
Alternate member.
Only one.
But he can, alternates can always just be involved in the discussions. They simply can't vote unless they've been officially seated. And he is now officially seated, so
Excuse me.
it's a better seat.
Without a-
Well,
without
kind of,
a,
sort of.
Message board blocking now.
All right. So artist studio. Clinton Street.
Accept this one? I don't think this has been accepted.
No, we did not.
Oh, we need a motion to
Yeah,
accept
motion
the
to accept.
application. So moved. Is there a second? Second, all those in favor of accepting the application?
If it's complete.
Is it complete? It's complete.
Yeah,
All right.
Good job,
And
Brad.
yes.
I'm taking it under assumption.
All right, what the hell?
Next schedule.
Motion to approve
engineering, Steve Smith and Associates, Dubois and King. So this is a property 59 Clinton Street. It's currently a single-family residential use. We've gone to the zoning board to propose a artist craftsman studio, which is allowed by special exception, and we've gotten granted that use for special exception. We also requested a variance for parking within the setback area. So the existing lot is on the other spectrum. It's more of the non-conforming lot. It's only 7,195 square feet existing lot. About 46% of it is green space. So it doesn't meet the current lot coverage requirement. So there's a house, there's a paved area for parking, and then a gravel area that's being used for parking. Existing fencing around the property up to this property line. This abutter, there's no existing fencing. For the proposed site plan, they're proposing a new demo the existing structure and a new structure that's less non-conforming and be a two-story, approximately 1,500 square foot artist craftsman studio. We're proposing 9 parking spaces, and the existing utilities in Clinton Street were recently upgraded by the city. So there's the existing sewer clean out and an existing water stub that was just left there. They never connected to the existing building just because they not being used. So we're going to connect into water and sewer there. We'll have underground electric coming to the nearby utility pole. So the roadway was done with the top coat, the base coat of pavement. The top coat is going to be coming this year. So going to coordinate with the city on our driveway entrance. Driveway entrance will be a little bit wider than what's currently there. So there's just a little bit of curb work that's going to be done. One of the comments was about from staff was about making sure that we kept the 2% grade and cross slope across the existing sidewalk, and we will do that and can do that. It's a pretty flat area. To deal with lot coverage, we're proposing that these parking spots on this side would be built with a pervious paver, patio block paver. This area is also where the existing structure is, so there's a foundation there. It's a full foundation, so kind of provides the opportunity to backfill that with well draining material that promotes infiltration, and so that's why we selected that portion of the parking lot as pervious paver. We're proposing new fencing along the boundary, along the property line. Once we get in the front setback, that fencing needs to drop to 4 feet. Has to do with site distance within the front setback. So we're proposing that. We also are proposing some new landscaping along the edge of the proposed parking on both sides. That's a architectural rendering of the proposed building.
Any other uses of that building other than artisan gallery or workshop?
That's
studio.
Yeah, that's the proposed use. You know, I'll say it did come up about, you know, not having people living there at the zoning board. Interestingly enough, if someone was living there, I don't think we would actually have to come to the planning board at all, because it would be a residents and single-family residents that would have an accessory use.
Right.
So, although there's no plan to have anybody lodging there or any kind of Airbnb situation, it is, I will say, the area is being promoted as an artist area with the Opera House. So potentially there's a relationship there where artists from the Opera House can have a place to utilize this space. It's within walking distance. So that was discussed at the zoning board and was acknowledged.
How old is the house that's coming down? You know?
I don't know the answer to that. I think we should always look that up.
What's that? Okay, so that answers my question. Thank you.
There's a house there is it occupied? Is there a habitable house that's currently there?
It's not occupied. I haven't been inside. I've looked in portions of the basement. I kind of looked in the basement to see that it was, make sure it was a full basement. It's in rough shape, I would say. Is it habitable? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I think that's probably it.
This is the reason I asked that. I hate to see us lose more housing when we're trying to promote housing.
Understood, yeah.
But, this could be an improvement.
Given the current renting situation in the city, if there's nobody there, it's because it can't be.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it would have already been rented out for $1,000, $1,500 a month if it was.
Right. So we'll say it's probably not habitable. So this would have the ability for someone to reside there. I mean, it has a bathroom and all that stuff.
It would have a bathroom. I think it would, I don't think there's a plan for a full bathroom. The building architectural plans, I don't think are fully developed with the plumbing plans. There certainly will be a bathroom there. Whether there'll be a shower, I don't know. I'll just say it, the use we're proposing is not include a living space.
Yeah.
If it were to become a living space, I assume it would just
A
become a
lot of
living
these
space.
actors
and-
come in and, just for the summer and they're always looking for housing. So.
Yeah.
So if this is in conjunction with the Opera House, would there be rehearsing going on?
Rehearsing, I could see reading of lines, maybe, like.
I was thinking more bands. Like were abutters notified that? I'm just trying to imagine what they thought art.
The butters were notified, yep. In
And I
terms of
hope they
abutters, we're
weren't-
always notified whenever. we
I hope
come
they
to the
weren't
planning board.
thinking arts and crafts. I'm just wondering if they're prepared for rehearsal. if it
Yeah, I mean,
happens.
I don't think that, I think typically rehearsal would happen at the stage where they're gonna be doing the performance, because that's where they want to check their sound and everything.
Gotcha,
The only thing that
okay.
would happen here for rehearsal, I think maybe they would go through their lines, maybe an acoustical set just to kind of warm up their instruments, potentially, but I don't think there's any kind of like planned performances here or rehearsals. I think maybe practicing, potentially.
Okay, because I read about it in the paper and it sounded like if the acts came up the night before, they would probably be given that to stay in
I
or,
don't believe what you read in the paper.
Okay.
Yes, that's not true.
There was some discussion before the zoning board about that, right? Mike?
Yes. Yes, Gail beat him up over that.
Well, guess we could call this an accessory to the Opera House, but as it stands before us, it's a studio. And they're not required to have, full baths or any of that stuff. So.
Aren't we better off if it doesn't have a full bath? It means they're not going to be staying for great lengths of time.
Again. This is also right directly across the street from Sanborn Park, that green space that Mr. Abbott tried to buy from the city. So. Okay, any other questions for the applicant? All right, sensing none, we'll call the public hearing at 9:51 PM. there any members of the public or abutters that wish to be heard? We have somebody online, I think. Unless it was Rob himself who wished to be heard.
Need to wake Rob up.
Hello,
Hi there, what's your name?
my name is Sheila Lemire.
And where do you reside, Sheila?
I am at 11 Hill Street in Laconia. I
Ah.
am an abutter to this property.
Yes. Well, good
Uh,
evening, welcome.
Thank you so much. We've been watching all night, so we're a little tired, but we stayed up. So I don't know if any of my neighbors are on, but I know that we've all kind of chatted about it. We're happy to hear that we're not expecting to hear lots of loud music or something going on late at night. There are lots of kids that live right around this property. So that was a concern of ours. I think my biggest concern for us is the fence that's going to be connected to our property. There is an existing fence. I believe it's a 6-foot wooden fence. There are a couple spots that are falling apart. And we noticed in the plans that it is not in the plans to replace that fence. So we weren't sure if it was going to be taken down and then upon us if we wanted to put a fence up on our side. So we would really like to know what was going to go on with that part. And if there is a plan to put a fence up to replace that existing fence, what kind of fence it would be.
Nick, could you answer that lady's question? Please?
Right now, I would propose that the fence is actually connected into the building here and here. And that the fence that's existing, that's connected to the building and around to the back would get removed. If it is in fact on our property and not fence.
So she abuts the back line of the property, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So the plan would be to remove that existing stockade fence. If in the future a fence were to be placed along the property line, it would most likely be a white vinyl fence or a wooden rail.
You included the board on board?
Yeah, I included photos. Board on board, yeah. Thank you.
Do the plans as you submitted them include a fence, a replacement of the fence? They do not.
No.
And ma'am, are you in favor of taking down the existing fence?
I would prefer not to. It does go up against our property, which is our backyard, and we have a pool, we have a playground, we have small children that use it, especially in the summer. And there is actually like a drop off. That property is a few feet lower than our backyard. So having no fence there is kind of a falling hazard, especially for small children.
You said you have a pool?
We do. We have
Doesn't
an
that
above ground
require
pool.
that you put up a fence?
I was told because there was already a fence, we were good. But I suppose if their fence comes down, then we have to put up a fence.
Right.
Why do my plans show a fence?
Yeah,
Am
so
I
our
missing-
fence-
It's existing.
Our fence kind of plans to come here and then turn into the building so that we wouldn't have to fence off the entire backyard, and that would just be open to the butter. Essentially,
I think what the butter is saying is that
the existing fence
the-
is serving a purpose.
Yeah.
yeah, so does it need repair, ma'am? Is that what you're saying?
It does have at least one small spot that needs repair. I mean, if they were okay with it, we could take over that part of it until we could get a new fence put up. I would just hate to see the fence completely come down and there not be anything there until we could at least either repair it or put a new one up.
Okay. Is the fence on your property or is it on the subject property?
I believe it's right on the property line.
We're showing it on our property.
Okay. So you're hearing an abutter say that either if you tear it down, replace it, or you could fix it.
Or we can leave it.
we can leave it the way it is. Right. So they don't have a problem with leaving it up, ma'am.
We get it.
Okay.
In this meeting.
We understand your concerns.
Right.
So,
Tapped out.
So I think we would either leave it, propose to leave it up or work with the abutter to do a replacement fence.
right,
Okay.
The plan that we're showing is gonna show it as being left up. We're gonna show our new fence coming into the building at that spot, and then basically the existing fence will continue from that spot around the back. Oops, around the back and here, and then we would remove fencing along our property
okay,
where we're replacing it.
all right. All right, did you have any other questions about this, ma'am?
No, I believe that was my biggest issue. So thank you very much for hearing me and taking the time.
I heartily apologize for taking up so much of your valuable Tuesday evening,
No worries.
so. All right, thank you very much. Are
Thank
there
you.
any other members of the public or abutters that wish to be heard? Sensing none, we'll close the public hearing at 9:58 PM. What is the staff report?
Staff recommends that the board grants the conditional approval with the criteria that is outlined. There's a couple of considerations for public works. Some of those are time sensitive, but the applicant is aware of them, is working with Public Works to do those. They mentioned the final pavement is going to be done sometime this year, so it's important to get anything that's going to happen in the road done before then. Other than that, this is pretty straightforward. And they have their special exception from the zoning board and their variance for their parking lot.
Thank you. Brett?
So Dean, I have a question. I guess maybe I was thinking the wrong thing when I read this artist craftsman studio. I thought it was going to be another Freights, hey, come and paint, and make sculpture type stuff. But now that we've raised musicians and stuff, if that is going to be one of the intended uses, can we make one of the conditions soundproofing? So that we don't start getting, or the police start getting all kinds of things about bands warming up there, or
You could do that, or perhaps a hours of operation for anything that is going to produce sound. You know, if you're going to have a group of people, if you're going to have a group of people sitting around a table reading lines, you probably don't have an issue. But if a performer of some kind needs to rehearse, then you say, you know, whatever hours you think are appropriate, you know, not after X PM or not before, you know, Y AM.
They don't.
You know, I think that's certainly
This is all
appropriate.
subterfuge.
Our definition of artist studio includes sculpturing, but it includes painting, it includes music, it includes woods, you know, woodworking, and, you know, a very large number of uses that a quote artist studio could be. In this case, there's a very strong relationship with the Opera House, so it's going to be related to those activities.
Any other questions for staff? All right, sensing none. It's the pleasure of the board.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion made by the chief. Is there a second? Second from St. Clair. Any further discussion?
so do
What
we,
about the sound?
do we add in there hours, audible sounds outside from 10 PM to 6 AM? 8 AM? Or are we just gonna?
Don't we have a
disregard-
sound ordinance? I mean, isn't there?
Sound ordinance.
Okay, fine.
I mean, I wouldn't, we don't have to go looking for problems. But she wasn't
We
complaining.
were
about the sound.
depending on the sound ordinance 10 years ago
Oh, yeah.
when Mr. Sandegate got his approval.
But that was the lack of that was the lack of follow through on the applicant's part, not the board's.
Enforcement.
Well, that's another issue. Anyway, we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstained? One abstention. Mr. Cheney. All right. It is 10:02. The board, would you guys like to finish, go through the rest of this, or do you want to table the rest of it, or?
Poor gentleman still sitting
Got
here.
one
so
quickie here.
Okay,
At least for him. we ought to-
I'd just like to ask at 10 o'clock, because
Come
it's
back.
unusual, and I unfortunately am part of the reason why we're still here. PL 2022-0044 SU 808 Weirs Boulevard. It's a condo conversion. Is the applicant here? Yes, he is.
Online, Mr. Chair, my name is Ethan Wood. I do represent the applicant. The applicant is online. He's got the plans online as well, so if Mr. Moore would assist him in making sure that the plans can appear on the screen, we can certainly go through them with any questions that you may have. Again, we spoke with the applicant today. It's his plan to certainly go through things with regard to it, but it's a fairly straightforward application. Very briefly, the applicant is an LLC, and with us are Manny, Aurora, and Kalyan Verma, who are the principals of the LLC. And what we're showing on the screen and what you can see here is the proposed condominium and 9 units that are part of it.
Yep.
So
We have to accept.
Yes, we do. We need a motion to accept. Is it in order and ready for acceptance?
Motion to accept.
Motion made, seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand. Application is accepted. You get that, William? All right. There are any questions for the applicant about this condo conversion?
I have tons.
What?
We're happy to answer.
Start out.
Hey, he's waited around all this time for your question.
I'll make them quick. I think we missed a step.
What? Oh,
Certainly.
yes,
I
go
thought he
ahead.
was bypassing.
I thought you had already, I thought you said you, okay, go ahead.
I'd given the intro, and I'm going to let my client do the actual presentation.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
will that be you, Manny, or you, Kalyan?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. This is Kalyan. Can you guys hear me? First of all.
Yes. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, I wouldn't take much time because most of you already know about this property by now. It was already approved for construction development last year. And this is, at that time, it was more of a rental, short-term rental use, but now we are converting it into condos, hence the application. So as you can see on the screen, we have clearly designated the units with numbers. It's one house and 5 detached units, cottages facing on the left is Lake August Bay, and on the right is Pierce Boulevard, and 3 attached units and the associated parkings as limited common areas. So that's the plan, and construction is underway, 60 to 70% complete, expected to fully complete by end of summer. Ethan, would you like to add something to this? I think that's all I had to present today.
No, that's,
Any questions for the applicant?
yeah, we're happy to take questions at this time. Vice Chair Susie, if you'd like.
If I may, I'm sorry.
Oh, absolutely.
Stop it, I was first.
Go ahead, Scott.
I'm a question for the applicant. I'm looking at the on maps. I see there's some existing units there. Will those be torn down then, or?
They've
these-
already done all that.
This is all
Done
last
that.
year.
It's all done.
Yes. So
Brand
as a
new
part
stuff.
of the project, units 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 have been completely demolished and we are building them ground up. Unit 5 and 9 are existing. We renovated it. We renovated both of them.
Thank you. I haven't had a chance to get up that way, so I appreciate you addressing my question.
You
Sure.
you good? Okay.
Stacy.
Do we, so I've been reading about your soft lawn. Is that still being used?
I don't know why this is.
You said soft lawn?
Yes, that was on one of the plans, and I was wondering if it was still going to be in.
Is that something, are you referring to the turf lawn?
Yes, that's what they're talking about. and that is
Yes, yeah,
planned to
that
have-
stays.
You are still using that?
Yes, correct.
So I know, I was gonna ask our city if we have a ban on fake grass. Some cities and towns have a ban on it. We do not? Okay. So, and I was wondering, if you guys were installing or are you having a professional install that?
We have a professional installer, Dion. I mean, there are hardscapers and landscapers for the entire project. So they will be installing it. And those, that lawn is all completely pervious and we've run it by DES and everybody to, because we had to leave certain pervious areas within the property.
I do have a question. I mean, if you prefer, we could do it in pervious pavers as well. Because we were talking to the hardscaper and he said, if you want to, the turf and the pervious paver is one and the same thing. And if the cost is not too much, I mean, if that's what you guys prefer to do that, we just, because the way the landscape of the property is, we can't have lawnmowers going down and cut the grass, and we wanted some greenery, so that's why we have we're just using the rain gardens for the plantings and perennials over there. That's a different plan for that completely.
Right.
Yep.
The problem with that fake turf is that it only lasts about 8 years. So I was just curious if there was a plan for, does somebody take it over or it was just a thought because it's very, its shelf life is not that great.
Sure, and I can answer that question. With regard to maintenance and eventual replacement of that would be thank you, a condominium association fee. So there would be both capital expenses as well as annual expenses, and the replacement of it would be a capital expense. So there would be a collection from each unit with regard to the common area and the limited common area where that was placed, and it would be replaced.
That was my other question, if there was going to be a homeowners association.
It would be a condominium association under 356B.
Gotcha. Oh, and then is the mod pool, is that still in the
Sorry,
plan?
The what pool?
A mod pool?
Yeah, a mod pool. So I'm highlighting it here on the plan here. So yeah, it's already installed, by the way.
So, where, if that springs a leak, where is that water going?
At this time, there are proposed rain gardens down. I mean, this is not the mod pool, I'm sorry. So it's right here. So there are rain gardens planned in front of it. I can show you the planting plan. So it's a slope. And
Because these
Yep.
pools are notorious for breaking.
What is the block?
It's an actual shipping container that sits on top of concrete and uh,
yep, it's,
Modular pool. But I think we've already approved all of the. site
Yes.
plan. All we're doing is approving the switch to a condo.
Right.
That's correct.
It's a
I
change
didn't
of
see
use.
the
It's-
pool on there.
it's a change
Okay.
of use. That's what we're.
Got you. I took advantage of looking up the pool and I was like, I don't remember this pool from the first plan. Okay, I didn't realize that you still had it there. And it's up and running?
No, no,
it's installed. We're just trying to, we just getting some good days here, good warm days. So we're trying to fill that pool. It's not up and running yet.
The fact that you got one is pretty impressive. So.
Yeah, I honestly, I wouldn't do it again, but it looks good once it's said and done.
Apologies, I didn't see the pool on the first plan. So anybody else?
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
before you go, I apologize for not introducing myself. Ethan Wood with Normandy Cheney. and
You did, actually.
Did I? Fantastic. It's been a long night, so you apologize.
Tell me about it. Good to see you.
You as well.
All right, so I'm going to open the public hearing at 10:13. Are there any members of the public, abutters? Unidentified flying objects? Anybody? Sensing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 10:13. Staff? It's a condo conversion.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. We have reviewed preliminary plan, condo docs. We will review them again when they're finalized. The project itself is not changing, so they have made some considerable progress over the past couple of months. If you had driven by there, say the first of the year, it looked like a war zone, but they have made some very significant progress at the location. And our conservation technician has been out there on a regular basis, and they have maintained their erosion controls very well throughout this process. So no unusual things on this condo conversion.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Sorry.
All right, well, no questions for staff.
I'll make a motion that we approve PL 2022-0044 SU for the condo conversion of 808 Weir's Boulevard.
You have a motion by
Second.
Mr. Bellevue, second by Mr. Sinclair. Any discussion?
I just want to go on the record saying that every time you lose a motel to condos, you lose business. We can't stop these people from making it a condo. I don't know how we can possibly do that, but it's just not good for the city.
Well, we'll always be a service economy, I guess. It's just, the labor shortages is also a big factor. You can't run a motel if you don't have people to run it.
Right, it's easier to do Airbnb.
Perhaps. No, but it's a good point, Mike. I mean, really, but
It's just Warren
In fact,
Hutchinson.
I would second that. The shortage of employees and shortage of people, shortage of everything actually has made us change this decision to condo.
yeah.
The, uh-oh.
Now you've done it, Dean.
Another one, the one right next door to, I can't remember the name of it, but way up in the channel, they went condo a few years ago. And every time one of these motels, such as the Lazy E, goes to condo, we lose those people coming in, going out to restaurants and stuff. People that buy the condos come there and they're not out spending money like tourists.
Well, I don't know if we have the economic studies that would support that. But this
yeah.
is merely a change of use, so there's gonna be warm bodies in those buildings, and they're gonna need to buy their provisions locally, they're gonna need to go out to eat.
Can those be rented out?
Yes, we have a 7 days minimum, so to be respectful to the other owners of the property. So and that's been coming more of and more question. Once we start colonizing it, people have been asking. So yeah, I mean, we would still be having people coming over for Airbnb or from other parts, because local owners don't even live here all the time. They're coming here occasionally, and they can Airbnb for 7 days minimum.
And I would like to add to it, earlier Lazy Eve was more seasonal, but we took down the cottages which were on piers, and we are building full basements and making it year round. We are also installing radiant heat for walkways, stairs and walkways to get to each of the cottages. So we are making all the arrangements to make sure that they are operable year round. So that increases the rentable time in the year from like 6 months to 7 months to complete 12 months. So, and also we are including short-term rentals in allowed in our condo document, in the condo bylaws. So.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. What's the pleasure of the board?
We have a motion and a second.
Let's vote.
Let's
All in
vote.
favor?
All in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Losing my place. We have to do an application acceptance. Is that the
Sorry,
last
so
one?
late.
That's all right.
They pay 'em by the hour.
Last.
PL 2022-0045 SP 427 Weirs Boulevard. This is an application for a proposal to dock the dive at the existing dock when not in operation. This is only application acceptance, am I correct?
A little wrinkle.
I don't know if we allow wrinkles past 10 o'clock.
Call it a Bill's pump
So
failure.
the applicant has requested a number of waivers from our site plan requirements, which we're going to review with you. But the board needs to rule on the waivers, preferably tonight, so that we know that they've either been waived or that the applicant needs to do something about specific requirements so that they're ready for the next meeting.
Is the applicant here?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant's actually online. I do represent the applicant. Again, Ethan Wood with Nomanton, Cheney and O'Neill, representing not only James Slowey, trustee of the Slowey Trust, who's the property owner, but also Jamie and Betsy Miriam, who operate the dive, and for whom we are here before you. And we note as an initial point that while there are a number of waivers, I disagree with staff that you couldn't accept and vote on this tonight because there is no change with regard to what's occurring on the ground. And the only uses that are occurring on the ground are pre-existing uses for the property, i.e. parking, trash pickup, and people walking back and forth to the dive.
We're not going to be doing any waivers tonight. What's before us is application acceptance. The waivers will be at the public hearing when that's scheduled.
Mr. Chair, if I may, then we'd request that you expedite the public hearing because the delays in the public hearing will negatively impact my client's ability to operate his business. So if we could put them on the calendar prior to the June meeting, I would appreciate that.
Well, that's not going to happen. It's on the calendar. It's on the agenda tonight as application acceptance, period. That's the only matter that's been noticed. It's the only matter before us. We're not going to be granting any waivers without a public hearing. How can we?
I would note, Mr. Chair, that the actual notice that went out does clarify exactly what's being requested, and the requested site plan is so minimal to this property that it really does not actually need a full site plan review.
Okay, well, that's my ruling anyway.
I'm just curious if I can.
Sure.
Dean, can you repeat again what you say about this wrinkle?
It's not a wrinkle. It's an application. He can't stand before us and recommend acceptance tonight, right? Is that what you're saying?
Without confirmation on what waivers you're willing to waive or not.
In advance of the public hearing? There's been no public hearing on these waiver requests, right?
No, I think he's saying he can't say we should accept it as a full application.
All right.
Until the waivers are, because they might have to add some stuff back to that.
Waivers or not?
Is it complete?
Yes. With the exception of what's being requested for the waiver.
Okay, so, and then the waivers will be presented to us at the public hearing, at the time of the public hearing.
So they could be presented to you tonight.
How is that possible? It's only noticed, it says public input is not taken at this time, in bold, in the agenda that was published. So no, well, we're here for application acceptance tonight. I'm sorry if he led you to believe otherwise.
Mr. Trefethan did not lead me to believe otherwise. He did notify me that this was the plan this morning. And while I respectfully disagree with Mr. Trefethan with regard to whether or not the board should act on this, I certainly do recognize that he did notice me this morning that it would be for application acceptance only.
Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. What is the board's pleasure? Shall we accept this application,
Yeah.
which is not incomplete?
You have to accept it with the waivers?
No, we can't.
Aren't they part of the application?
If we don't accept it with the waivers, that means with 2 more months we're talking? Because we'd have to accept the waivers at the next meeting and then you got to push it another meeting?
We're not ruling on the waivers this evening.
I'm asking if the waivers are discussed tonight, does that mean at the next meeting they're just presented as
The
acceptance?
waivers part of the application that's before the board tonight? Okay, so the waivers are part of the application that is before the board tonight. We will accept it with the waivers and schedule a public hearing for next month. Is that right? Okay. So does anyone care to make a motion to accept it with the waivers and whatever else they've applied for?
Make a motion to accept application PL 2022-0045 SP as submitted with waiver requests.
Okay, is there a second to Mr. Williams' motion?
Second.
Second? All right, all those in favor?
Discussion, please.
Go right ahead.
Like any motion. No, I'm just going to say that I'm going to vote for this, but I really, Mr. Chair, with all due respect, wish we've been here this late now. Another 15, 20 minutes to discuss the waivers wouldn't break my back, but I just wish we were. I get it. I'm just making my
We
point.
still have to have a public hearing.
We have to have a public hearing. Why would we discuss it now and then have a public hearing and discuss it again next month?
I don't know that. I don't know about, I'm a little confused with what Dean said earlier. So I get what you're saying. I'm just making my
Listen,
point.
with no disrespect to you or to Dean or anyone, this has been a controversial, this has been a controversial issue.
At this property,
Absolutely.
at this property?
This business has been, we're
So
not doing
you're talking
anything
about
without
the
a public
business, you're
hearing.
Not talking about the property.
Is there any other germane comments that would like to be made on the motion? Sensing none. All those in favor? Opposed? All right, the motion carries. Public hearing next month. Thank you for waiting. All right,
Chair Brunette, I again implore you to schedule a sooner meeting. So
we're
that
not
I
gonna
can-
have a special meeting.
I'm surprised to hear that.
Really? Okay, the rest of the, I'm gonna, I put it on the docket and I'm gonna take it off. The discussion about performance zoning, I don't think that would something we want to get into at 10:30. Other liaison reports?
I have a half hour, 45 minute liaison report I'd like to make.
Do you really?
Lights off on your way out.
Could you upload that for me and I'll review it?
You have 45 seconds. Talk fast.
Right.
I thought she wanted to get the overtime. That's the only reason I was.
Yeah, we all get the double overtime. Okay, LRPC. Conservation. What do you have?
Fire department.
City council, just seriously, anything that we should
No, I
know about?
apologize profusely. No.
Okay. And the Historic District Commission.
Nothing's changed.
Any other business? Sensing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, it sounds.
So moved. Just your main comments.